The base is dropped on a new edition of Soccer Down Here. It is a Thursday, and the United States men's national team has qualified for the World Cup for the first time since 2013 when they did it. Missed out in 2017, back to the tournament. The draw's tomorrow. We'll get into all of the permutations of everything. We'll talk about last night's game, even though the game really meant absolutely zilch, nada, nothing. Doesn't affect anything. 2-0 loss. Team had about as much motivation as most of us getting up in the morning because they just had to not lose by 6. That's why it's a little difficult. It was the third game in the window, all these different things. The result didn't matter. Anybody that you are listening to who is trying to tell you that that result matters for some reason, stop. Just turn and walk away. It doesn't. Do I wish they had won 20-0? Yeah, that'd have been great. Do I wish they had drawn? Sure, it'd have been better than losing 2-0. Does the loss 2-0 affect anything about the World Cup? Nope. Does it affect anything about the rankings for the draw? Nope. Does it affect anything about the quality of life? No, it doesn't. Doesn't really do anything. Did it change anything for Costa Rica? No. Nothing. So that's kind of a tough game to walk into. And I thought if anything about the U.S. last night, they looked pretty organized and they had about zero urgency, which is to be expected in that situation. So it wasn't the most eye-pleasing watch, but it was nice to see the final whistle and nice to see the U.S. book their spot for the World Cup coming up later this year. It was nice to see the celebrations. It was great to see some players who have been maligned by fans, pundits, everybody get that opportunity to celebrate. It's nice to see Greg Berhalter get that opportunity to celebrate. He's the 6th coach who has led the U.S. through qualification and gotten them to a World Cup. Bruce Arena's done it twice. Could have done it a third time, but, Bob Gansler did it going into 1990. Bor Milutinovic didn't have to do it going into 94. Steve Sampson did it going into 98. Bruce did it in 2002 and 2006. Bob Bradley did it going into 2010. Jurgen Klinsmann did it going into 2014. And then we know that the team of Klinsmann and Arena couldn't get it done going into 18. It's not easy. And as we've talked about all week, like this is something you should celebrate. There shouldn't be a yeah, but. There shouldn't be a here's why there's no reason for the last time the U.S. finished third in the final round of CONCACAF qualification. It was 2002. I seem to remember that being the best World Cup performance in modern times for the United States. I wonder if finishing third hurt them in some way and made them inferior. It didn't in Mexico in the round of 16. So, just saying. It doesn't matter. You get in the door. You qualify. Whatever the process is, you qualify. If it's 6 teams, if it's a hex, you qualify. You get it done. If it's an Ocho, you qualify. You get it done. They got it done. Congratulations to all of the staff, everybody, honestly, who was there and picked up the mantle the day after the failure in Trinidad and Tobago. Dave Sarachan should get a lot of kudos for the work that he did in the lame duck year, giving a lot of guys opportunity to get games under their belt. Big part of this. Greg Berhalter coming in. Yeah, it was a bumpy road at first. It was a very bumpy road in 2019 at times. There were a lot of experiments and things as Greg Berhalter, I think, was figuring out the differences between being a club manager and a national team manager. Scared the crap out of me at times. He figured it out, and he's had one of the best 12-month periods that a U.S. men's national team manager has ever had in results. Period. And look, I know. You can go find whatever you want. But he doesn't do this. But he doesn't do this. He doesn't call in this guy. He doesn't call in this guy. Sure, you can do all that. That's fine. But show me another manager who has done what he's done in the last 12 months. There isn't one. You're not going to find it. You're just not. So, not asking you to love the guy. Give him his congratulations. Give him his respect. He's earned it. He's 100% earned it at this point. And we'll get a sense of how much he has earned once the World Cup starts in November. November 21st is game 1. Couple things to keep in mind, as now you can actually start to look ahead. Now you can start to plan a little bit. MLS Cup, which will the bulk of the players will not come from MLS Cup teams. The bulk of the players won't come from MLS, but there will be some. MLS Cup is 2 weeks before the first game. It's 2 weekends before. Teams in Europe release players after games the weekend before the World Cup. The weekend before. So you could play on the 14th or on the 13th, technically on the Sunday. And then you're going to play on November 21st in the World Cup opener. That's unprecedented. It's never happened before. Not in modern times anyway. I don't remember timelines of the 1930s and 34 and all that. That's completely different. That is completely different. That's going to be a challenge for a lot of teams. That's what the timeline is looking like. The draw is tomorrow. You know your path. You're not going to have the same groups of death that you've had in the past because of the way the draw is structured. It's not structured by confederation. It's structured by FIFA ranking. You still have the same rules about confederations in groups and all that, but it's structured by rankings. So you'll have some groups that can be slightly harder than others, but it's not going to be completely slanted one way and in a super easy group. The easiest group you can get has Qatar in it. There's just no way around it. They're by far the lowest ranked team out of pot 1. That's the one that throws it off. You get a hard group if you get Peru. They're the highest ranked potential team out of pot 4. But outside of that, it's going to be sliding scales. It's like how 2018 was, where you didn't see this wide disparity in groups. The U.S. is at the top of pot 2. That means the expectation coming in is that they are one of the top 2 teams in their group. And that means they get out of the group. And I think that's where the expectation should be for Greg Berhalter and the U.S. men's national team. Get out of the group. Do they get a draw that is, the toughest draw you can get? Tudor Rockman went through these, and let's get John and Jarrett on this. By FIFA ranking. And that's really what you're looking at here, because that's what determines the pots. The toughest group you can get has an average opposing ranking of, or point total of 1939. That would be France, Serbia, and Peru. That is the toughest possible group you could get. The easiest, and this is possible, it'd be an average point total of 1610, Qatar, Tunisia, and New Zealand. The medium, absolute median draw here, Spain, Japan, Cameroon. That is the 1822 average opposing point total in your FIFA rankings. Whatever you get, if you get Spain, Japan, Cameroon, is that easy? No. That because I think of the stature of Japan and Cameroon and what we've seen in the past, Jarrett, that one scares you a little bit, even though that's the median point total you can get. But the U.S. would be expected to go through with Spain. The U.S. would be expected by rankings to go through with France in a group with France, Serbia, and Peru. I don't know if all U.S. fans would expect it, but according to the rankings, according to this system, the U.S. should be favored to get through in that situation. I don't know what the temperature of the fan base, the punditry, all of it is going to be when we get to November. I don't even know what it's going to be when we get to tomorrow dinner time and we know what the draw is.
Yeah, I don't know either. It should be doable, and unless you somehow land in that group that you don't want, where it falls into.
There's no. There's
I'm not
no
saying
way.
There's a group of death. I'm referencing your group that you referenced.
Which one? Because all of them, you're going to be expected to go through. Every single one. You're a pot 2 team. You're expected
France,
to go
Peru,
through.
and who is it? Serbia.
You're expected to go through.
Yeah,
you're the number 2 seed.
Yeah.
I mean,
if you get in that group, it's going to be a little dicey because I don't really want anything to do with Peru. France is kind of Nick and I have talked about this many times. The question with France is whether France loses or France beats itself, because at some point you never know what France will show up at the World Cup. If you don't get out of the group, this is a failure. I saw conversations adjacent to this last night with the way that Mexico approaches things versus the way America does, and that's going to depend by the person. It's not a a blanket about how everyone feels about the U.S. national team when they get to the World Cup or how they do in qualification, because it's just get in. That should be the bottom line here. Yeah, of course, it's great to be in like you were last time you were in, where you were comfortable and Mexico was sweating it just to get in, and Graham Zusi got Mexico in at the last second. It's great to be in those situations where you don't have to sweat it, but whether you do or don't, just get in, because we've seen just the abject failure and stupidity of not getting in, and well, maybe this will make everyone better for it. Like, no, like
no.
you're going to have to overhaul stuff when you don't. It doesn't make everyone better for it. You lose a cycle, and now you're back in there, and you better damn well get out of the group.
How many times have you been sold a rebuild, Jarrett, in sports and had it fail? The idea that an overhaul is a magic elixir and it always works.
Let me introduce you to the early 2000s Atlanta Hawks.
Yeah, overhaul every 2 years.
Let me introduce you to the current Philadelphia Phillies and New York Mets. The Braves and Phillies started their rebuilds right around the same time.
Mm-hmm.
The Cubs did a rebuild and got a World Series out of it. The Braves did a rebuild, got a World Series out of it. Go through the list, though, and see how many teams don't. They do a rebuild and nothing comes from it. The Mariners are still trying to get back to the playoffs for the first time since God knows when.
The idea that failing and rebuilding is a fix
it's
false.
Such a crapshoot. You are pulling the slot machine's handle in the process to do it.
Yep.
Yeah, you don't want to do a rebuild, man. You want to be able to get there every 40 years and learn from it and get guys the experience and build off of it and continue to develop players. It's to your point. I mean, that group would be tricky just because it's so weird if that's what you end up with. But if you don't get out of your group, it's an abject failure. And
I don't know if I'm going to go abject. I think it is because of the seeding. I mean, it's just you're expected to get through. Whoever you get in pot 3 and 4, you're expected to get past them. I don't care about the number 1. That's going to be hard no matter what it is because they're ranked higher than you. I mean, just let's remove team names. You're in pot 2 for a reason. You're among the top half of the teams that have qualified. Okay. And it's not by these pots are not done by confederation anymore. Throw those things out from back in the day. It is by ranking. It is by FIFA ranking. You can argue with the FIFA rankings. Is it maybe off in spot to spot? Sure. Is it off in general? Not really. It's pretty good. It's about as good as you can get in ranking soccer teams worldwide that don't always play one another. So you're expected to go through. Doesn't mean you do, but the expectation is that you are better than anybody in pot 3 and anybody in pot 4, and the pot 1 teams are better than you. Period. That's the expectation. That's what's been created over results from the last few years. One of the reasons the U.S. is ranked that highly is they won the Gold Cup. They won the CONCACAF Nations League. They beat Mexico in 2 finals. That's a big reason why. Okay. You got to make that stand up. Yes, I agree with you, Jarrett, because there's no way you can get into a group that you should not be expected to go through according to the rankings. It is physically impossible. So if you don't,
you have to. For me,
if you don't get out of the group, I want to see how it plays out. There's always stuff that can go wrong. I mean, what if Christian Pulisic tears his ACL? Then we're having a different conversation. There's things that can change it between now and then. But right now, depending on the group, it's a failure no matter what if you don't get out of the group. It is an abject failure if some of those potential bad luck things go in your direction. If you're going to play Poland, if they're the pot 3 team that's in your group and Lewandowski tears his ACL and doesn't play. Yeah, then Poland's not Poland that you expect, and you should handle that. If they beat you, it is an abject failure. I'm not going to go abject in general because stuff's hard and things can happen and we don't know everything yet. But you will be expected to get to the knockout round. There's just no way to argue that you won't be.
Do you want to play it as all things being equal, like if everyone is healthy, that sort of thing then?
Well, yeah, I mean that's what it comes down to.
Because I know you can't predict injuries.
If everybody is healthy and everybody gets in the way they expect, like if it's France, Serbia, Peru, if that's your group, if that's the hardest possible group you can get according to the rankings, if that's the group and you don't get out, I'm not going to go abject failure. I'm going to go failure If it's Qatar, Tunisia, and New Zealand, and you don't get out, then it's an abject failure. You know what I mean? Like, there's scales of failure.
Okay.
But you're expected to go through. I want to drive that home over and over and over again.
Okay.
You're expected to get out. And the scale of the failure is going to depend on things that can happen, what the groups do look like. Peru's tougher than New Zealand. I really believe that. I think Serbia's tougher than Tunisia. Mm-hmm. So there's a scale where it becomes more of an abject failure if you don't get out. But no matter what group you get, the expectation is that you're a pot 2 team and you're going to the knockout round. But you got to do it.
Yeah. John, what are your thoughts?
I mean, I was looking at the Serbian side just to see what the roster at 100% would look like, and it is
they're a third-ranked team. They should not beat you.
Yeah, I mean, it is an older team than you. Yes, it has a lot of Serie A experience, but a majority of the folks on that roster, as of 2 days ago, are folks late 20s, early 30s, and you're talking about folks like Alexander Mitrovic, who's playing in the championship, Milinkovic-Savic, Dusan Tadic. You should be able to take care of a Serbian side who is in pot 3, but you should be able to take care of them also if you're at 100% and they're at 100% because of youth and group and all those other things. You are a better side than a 100% Serbia if you yourself are at 100.
The rankings tell you that. I mean, it's flat out. And Strummer John, I want to be clear here. Please do not misunderstand me. I'm not saying anything about the qualification was a failure. No. No. A lot of people are. A lot of people are making that argument. I am saying the exact opposite. We're talking about the World Cup in November. You're expected as a number 2 seed. It's honestly simple. You have pot 1, you have pot 2, you have pot 3, you have pot 4. 2 teams out of every group go through. This is not the Women's World Cup with an odd number of teams that creates third place opportunities. It's not some other weird tournament. It's not the World Cup back in the 90s. It's top 2 go through. It is very simple. Your pot 1 teams should go through to the knockout round. Your pot 2 teams should go through to the knockout round. If you don't in the World Cup, then that's a failure. That's later. That's down the road. Not discussing anything about currently being a failure. A lot of people are, because a lot of people want to get them clicks or hold on to their narratives and not give anybody any credit. And that's fine. That's completely fine. If you want to go play that route, if you want to be miserable, do it. Listen to Puddle of Mud or My Chemical Romance or whatever. 1981 Cure all day, nonstop. And curse Greg Berhalter all day long. Good for you. Have fun. They need to get out of the group. And that's okay. That expectation's fair. I can't be persuaded that the expectation of getting out of the group is unfair because of these rankings. They set it up this way. It's not the old days. It's not the old days where third place teams get through, but it's also not the old days where you did the pots and you did the draw based on confederation. And then if you're in pot 3 and you could get a team from CONCACAF or from Asia and you get Mexico or the U.S. versus, Iran, then that's a huge swing. It's not set up that way anymore. It's set up by rankings. The rankings are not perfect, but the rankings are a good expectation of where teams are. So no, Strummer John, please don't misunderstand me. Okay. It says, why are we jumping to a possible failure in the future? We don't even know the groups yet. This is where it's really hard to talk U.S. men's national team, y'all, because all we started with here is that the draw's tomorrow. You're a number 2 seeded team in the pots, which means you should get out of your group. That's it. Jared, of course, which sometimes does tend to the negative, did go abject failure at not getting out of the group. And I'm walking that back a little bit because I think they should get through, but there's scales of failure if you don't get in. But it's either you only stay in failure terms talking about the U.S. or you can't talk about it. We honestly really try to come at it from a realistic perspective. In my book, you should be celebrating like a lunatic that the U.S. qualified because it's not easy. And there's a lot of teams that wish they could do it. You should 100% be celebrating that. You should be very happy right now. You should be very excited about the draw. And no matter what the draw is, there is no way to justify for me that the U.S. should not be expected to get out of the group. Doesn't mean that, burn the program down if they don't. I'm nowhere near that. I'm saying that, that should be your expectation. That's a goal. That's a good goal. It's a fair goal. It's something that this organization should strive for, honestly, every time. That should be the baseline now. And if you don't hit your baseline, and it means a failure. That's the word you use. But no, I am in no way banging on this team. Argued about people constantly banging on this team all the time and never wanting to give credit, moving goalposts and changing. Oh, well, you lost in the last game, so you're not very good. Stop. Shut up. Doesn't matter. You qualified. Celebrate. Get the draw. No matter who's the pot 3 team and pot 4 team in your group, you should go through. And you can jump some pot 1 teams, by the way, because you just missed out on pot 1. You can jump that. Don't get caught by the teams that you should beat. You beat those 2, you lose to the pot 1 team, you're going into the knockout rounds and anything can happen. That has to be the expectation going forward. Thank you, John. Okay, now it makes sense. I wanted to make sure, because we do have to talk about expectation, and we do have to talk about what is next, because now you're in. Now you're in. But they got to get through the group, because the way it's set up now, the top seeds are protected. FIFA, look, they do a lot of dumb things. This one's smart. You're not going to get these uneven, weird groups. You're not going to get the groups of death from before. You're going to get a group that's harder than the others. The group of moderate illness. But you're not going to get a group of death where it's stacked one way anymore, because they want the best teams to get through. And the U.S. is one of the top 16 teams in the world, according to the rankings. So they should get through. And that's what it is. Mild symptoms. Yes, Coco. There you go. Absolutely 4 card. Yeah, it can be harder to meet the expectation depending on the group. If it's Serbia versus Tunisia, yeah, that's harder. You still should expect to do it. And that's okay. I'm not in any way firing Greg Berhalter if he doesn't get through the Serbia, France, Peru group, if that's the group. If he doesn't get through the Qatar, Tunisia, New Zealand group,
that's an issue.
Well, I need to see how it goes, because we can play this all the way around too. And you have a fluky red card, you have a deflected goal, whatever. We're having a different conversation if you get outplayed 3 times. So, in general, I don't think it's unfair to say that the U.S. should be expected to get through. I don't think it's unfair to say that it's a failure if they don't. And I think it is unfair to say that they don't deserve to be here, or they didn't qualify well, or blah, 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 blah. I think that's my feelings on it. Disagree, and that's completely cool. That's my feelings on it, to be 100% clear. A couple other things here, just so you know, worldwide scale here of the pots, because we know what they are now officially. Pot 1 hosts Qatar. They're in Group A. Brazil, Belgium, France, Argentina, England, Spain, Portugal. Pot 2, Mexico, USA, Netherlands, Germany, Denmark, Uruguay, Switzerland, Croatia. Pot 3, Senegal, Iran, Japan, Morocco, Serbia, Poland, South Korea, Tunisia. Pot 4, Canada, Cameroon, Ecuador, Saudi Arabia, Ghana, plus 1 of Scotland, Ukraine, Wales, 1 of Australia, UAE, Peru, and 1 of Costa Rica, New Zealand. The only way like the rankings get weird, no, you cannot be drawn in a group with Canada. Again, yeah, it's probably a good time to specify all the rules here and all of this, because there are some very specific things to it. And I've already seen a lot of kind of experts or outlets kind of mess this up. That's the 4 pots that we just talked about. Qatar's in pot 1. They automatically take the A1 position. We know the 4 pots and how it goes. The rules. Teams from the same confederation cannot be drawn in the same group, with the exception of UEFA, which will have at least 1, but no more than 2 teams in each group. Okay. So actually, Toodle Rockman's way of doing this is incorrect, because you can't have that super easy group. Not easy, but easier group. You can't have that, because you got to have a UEFA team in it. You can't have more than 2 UEFA teams in a group. You can't have 2 CONCACAF teams in a group. You can't have 2 CONMEBOL teams in a group. You can't have 2 African teams in a group. You can't have 2 Asian teams in a group. So when you start to do the draw, teams get bumped into other groups based off of that. So that's that's the basics. We know the World Cup will kick off on November 21st. We know where the third place game is. We know where the final is because all the venues are so close. Once the group is done, they will get the stadiums and then allocations for tickets and all that sorted out, and then kickoff times and everything will be sorted out. Your odds already. Brazil is a plus 550. They are the favorite to win the World Cup today. France is next at plus 600. England plus 700. Spain plus 8. Germany plus 9. Argentina plus 1,000. United States plus 8,000. Mexico plus 10,000. Ecuador plus 15,000. Costa Rica is at the bottom of the list at plus 150,000. They've never gotten past the quarterfinal, so don't get crazy with your things here. If I'm looking for a moderate underdog, I mean, Argentina at plus 1,000 is pretty good after the year that they've had and they haven't lost in 31 games. If you believe in Belgium, they're plus 1,200. Portugal plus 14. Netherlands plus 16. Jarrett, Scotland is plus 25,000 if you're feeling lucky.
I'm not touching it.
Yeah, that's probably a good idea.
Although I did see the one idea for the best, you can get into as much as we talk about the draw you want to avoid. Let's flip it around. The best draw, because here's a draw for you. Qatar, however you're pronouncing it, I apologize either way.
I think it's supposed to be Qatar. I think it's like Qatar. But
are we settled on Qatar?
That's well, fine, I think we have. I think what from my research, and we had a long discussion about this about a year ago. I think one, it's very hard to replicate in English. Mm-hmm. It is not Qatar or Qatar, as we're hearing in some places. It is closest Qatar, like guitar. But
we'll operate under that.
Yes, that is my
otherwise.
Yes.
Okay. So if you're looking for a good draw, I mean,
they're the easiest team in pot one, no question.
Tunisia, and then Wales, Scotland, Ukraine. Whoever wins that, which I'm inclined to think it's Wales that gets out of that.
Yeah, it's actually really good you bring this up because in pot 3, you only have 2 European teams, Serbia and Poland. In pot 4, you only have 1 European option, Wales, Scotland, Ukraine, whoever comes out of that.
Yeah.
So if you're the U.S. and you get Qatar or you get Brazil or you get Argentina in pot 1, you're going to be with one of Serbia, Poland, Wales, Scotland, Ukraine because of the way the draw structure, and there has to be a European team in it. So keep that in mind as the draw goes on. That's a very important thing. That's an important spot there, Jarrett, because you're going to get one of those.
And to Coco's point, if you do end up with Scotland in the World Cup playing the United States, I will host the most unsettling watch along in the history of SDH.
That might be the day you actually get fired, Jarrett.
Yeah.
It might be. That might be the day.
It might
That's going to be one you're going to be looking back on and having to explain at all the live events.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's. But if you can get that sort of draw, yeah, to your point, that's you're looking. Here's my thing. I'm never going to apologize for an easy draw. I want the easiest path.
Oh, give me the easiest draw.
I don't. No. I don't want to hear the complaints of so and so had an easy draw. Good for them. I wish it was me. Kansas had an easy path in the tournament this year in the NCAA tournament. I wish we were Kansas then. I'd love an easy path. Never apologize for an easy path. Never apologize for good luck in a sporting event or a tournament. Because you need anyone who's going to win this damn thing is going to get luck at some point along the way. To say otherwise is foolish. Give me the easiest draw you can possibly give me. I don't want your hardest battles. We've seen the meme flying around about the Falcons and other teams. Like, why do you keep giving me your hardest battles? I don't want them. Give me the easiest battle.
Reef gives us some pronunciation help, and yeah, Sharif says it's a hard G sound in Qatar according to the dialect of the natives. Formal Arabic hard K sound and a slight stop between QA and a quick emphasis on the tar. So if you're somewhere in Qatar, you're pretty good, Sharif. Is that? I hope hope I'm in the ballpark at least. I don't know where the idea came up for Qatar. That's the one that is starting to gain some momentum with John's people, and it just it keeps getting spread. And
all of the angling pundits went Qatar.
Yeah, and Qatar is another one that has been spread around too. I think the English.
Well, that one was thrown around a lot in the last 2 or 3 years, and it was. I think it was different enough that you're like, oh, that might be right, and then it kind of gets a life of its own.
Yeah, I don't think Qatar was an American one. I think Qatar was purely from the British Isles.
About Qatar.
Qatar is, I think, one that came more from this neck of the woods.
And it was. I think it was just people trying to find different ways to pronounce it because they weren't sure what was right.
Yeah. It is a tricky one because the sounds don't. Well, and languages are hard, but in this one, you have some sounds that are not really done in English, so it's a little bit of a fit that you have to just try to find the best you can. But I think Qatar. Sharif says that's as close as can be. As close as we can get for English speakers. Thank you. I did put in my research on that one. On trying to get it as close as we could. So questions about where I'm seeing the pots and the draw and all that. CBS Sports has a really good breakdown on their soccer page today. Dale Johnson of ESPN has a really good breakdown as well with the final pot assignments. Dale Johnson's one of the best. Highly recommend following him. Dale Johnson, ESPN. They did update the rankings today. We knew there'd be just a little bit of number shifting, not really spot shifting, after everything finished, and they were updated today ahead of the draw. But that's where it stands. The ones we went through. I can run through it one more time. Pot 1, Qatar is number 1. Brazil, Belgium, France, Argentina, England, Spain, Portugal. That's going to headline your groups. Pot 2, Mexico, Netherlands, Denmark, Germany, Uruguay, Switzerland, USA, and Croatia. Pot 3, Senegal, Iran, Japan, Morocco, Serbia, Poland, South Korea, Tunisia. Pot 4, Cameroon, Canada, Ecuador, Saudi Arabia, Ghana. 1 of Wales, Scotland, Ukraine. 1 of Costa Rica or New Zealand. 1 of Peru, Australia, United Arab Emirates. Those are your options. There will be a European team in every group. You won't have more than 2 European teams in a group. You won't have more than 1 of any other confederation in a group. So pretty simple when you get down to those rules. And that's how this thing's going to go. I believe is set up to be about a 3-hour show tomorrow with the World Cup draw. I think
you just said the magic word for the veterans among the Twitch pitch.
You guys can have at it. I will be traveling in the morning.
You will have taken off and probably landed.
Oh no, I'll probably be landed before the thing even starts.
You will have left Atlanta, made it to DC, got settled in your hotel. You will have accomplished a tour of the cherry blossoms and everything, getting squared away for the festival.
Jason's going to go hide in the Smithsonian and hope that self signals don't work, just to hide out for a while.
Probably. Speaking of which, there will not be a live show in the morning. There will be recorded content in the morning, and then there will be a reaction to the draw afterwards. Travel plans and such. Got to do what we got to do to work. Chris Rabel wants to rank the teams in each pot based off who you want to see the U.S. play, and who I want to see them play is based off who I think they can beat. If I'm just looking for like friendly games, I'd like to see the U.S. play Argentina. Hopefully get to see that this summer. The reason why that hasn't been announced and stuff like that hasn't been announced yet is you ain't playing them if you're in the group with them. You're not going to play them in the summer if you're going to be in a group with them in November. So if you want to see that U.S.-Argentina game or Mexico-Argentina, then you're hoping they don't get drawn together, because if they do, that's not happening. I would like to see out of pot 1. I think it's an obvious one. You want to be in with Qatar. Yes, they're the host country, but they are not Brazil or Belgium or France or Argentina or England or Spain or Portugal. They're not. Let's say you don't get that. Who would I want next?
Portugal?
Yeah, I mean, they're the lowest ranked team. They're the obvious one. You have to deal with one of the best forwards in the world in Cristiano Ronaldo.
You do.
But I feel like they are, because they're the lowest ranked team, they're the most inferior team. If I have to pick one of the more heavyweights, Belgium would be there just because they haven't ever lived up to all of the hype.
Yeah, we can talk about that this summer and leading into the Cup. This feels like this generation's last chance to not go out empty-handed.
People are booing and outraged about my travel schedule tomorrow. Like, I can control that, y'all. Jeez.
He doesn't have a transmogrifier where it's an instant.
I don't have my own plane, people. Okay? I have to get on the plane when they tell me to get on the plane.
Yeah.
This is going to be an interesting run for Belgium because this might be their last run with this generation, which was their golden generation and supposed to provide them with glory, and it hasn't happened yet. Man, no pressure, Belgium.
Now, good point from who had the point? It scrolled down because people are trying to get me a private plane. Christopher Abel had the point. If you get Portugal, then you can get some of the other teams in pot 3 and 4 that are a little more comfortable. And that's a really good point. I want nothing to do with Brazil. Again, but this is one game in the group. You should win the other 2, right? According to your rankings. So it's not catastrophic if you do.
Don't you want the extremes? Don't you want...
The extremes don't matter. It doesn't matter. That has nothing to do with it, John. You're not going to then get an easier team in another pot. You're just drawing out of a pot. So, no, I don't get to choose the extremes. If you get Brazil, or if you get Argentina, or if you get Qatar out of the first pot, then in pot 3 or 4, you're going to get one of those European teams. You're going to have to. So there is a case to be made that you'd rather get a Portugal, and however you feel, between Belgium, France, England, Spain, Portugal. I'll take Portugal out of that. And then I'd actually probably take Belgium next, honestly. I would probably take Belgium because, I mean, 2 of your top players, and not your best, but 2 of your top ones, and Eden Hazard and Romelu Lukaku, not exactly in the best of form these days.
Oh, the best of shape, yeah.
I'll take Belgium. So I'll take a European team out of pot 1. I like that. Christopher Abel, thank you. I like your strategy. So I'll take that. And then in pot 3, Tunisia is the lowest ranked team. They're easy. They're easy in a pick here. Don't understand me. They're not easy. Nobody's easy.
Japan's been inconsistent.
Japan is inconsistent, and you've got a serious pace and power advantage over Japan,
buddy.
Which can factor into a 90-minute game. Iran is,
especially in that weather,
team. Yes, Iran is a team that I don't think is super strong. One thing to keep in mind, too, is you don't have as much cross-confederation play anymore because of Nations Leagues, because of just the last year we've all had, last couple of years with COVID. So Iran hasn't played top teams in a long time. Are they going to be able to raise their game? Are they not? I'll take them. Yep. I don't want Senegal out of pot 3. I want no part of that.
No.
I don't really want Morocco. And if I have to get to a European team here, I'll take Serbia over Poland because I don't want to deal with a striker like Lewandowski who can ruin your day.
Nope.
I don't want that. So I'll take Tunisia. I'll take Iran. I'll take Japan in that order. And if I have to take a European team based off how the draw's gone, I'll go Serbia. Pot 4, you can't get Canada.
I don't want Ecuador.
No, I want nothing to do with Ecuador. Ecuador.
Let England have fun with Ecuador. Just or Mexico. Why don't y'all go play with Ecuador for a while? Let me know how that works out for you.
I don't want to deal with that at all. Cameroon has been wildly inconsistent. I can deal with that if that's who you get. Ghana's just that team that I think everybody's like, ooh, we've always had problems with them. They're not the same.
We're going to get Ghana the same. Ghana in the U.S. lately, in the last, 3 World Cups, it feels like Atlanta United and Charleston Battery in the U.S. Open Cup. It's just, oh, you again. Great. How have you been since I've seen you last?
I don't want Ecuador because, I mean, you've got some individuals that are great here, and you've got a style of play. Like, when you talk about the climate, and it will have an effect, Ecuador's a team that can deal with that just fine. and they're physical and
the idea
technical.
of Ecuador versus England.
Oh no, I'm down for that.
That's what he wants now.
I'm
You're
down
welcome.
for that. Ecuador's going to cause somebody a massive problem in this World Cup.
It's going to be not unlike the Colombia-England knife fight of 8 years ago.
Yeah, it won't be quite to that level, but yes. England's a weird one. I mean, England is a team that was a semifinalist last time. They were finalists in the Euros. Like, I think at times we kind of joke about England and maybe listen to some of their fans who like to boo Harry Maguire when his name's announced. England's really good.
Mm-hmm.
Really good. And they have a forward who can ruin your day in a tournament, Harry Kane. 100%. They can end you. He can end you. He can end your tournament. So, like, nah, they're not an easy walkthrough in any case. Saudi Arabia is a complete unknown. Like, completely hard to guess here. I'll take my chances with a team like that. Obviously, you can't get Costa Rica if they qualify. If New Zealand is in, give me New Zealand because they're inferior. They're just not at the same level. They don't get to play the same competition. No. Out of the Wales, Scotland, Ukraine situation, sorry, Jared, I'll take Scotland.
Well, I think Wales ends up getting that. And that's if Scotland gets through Ukraine. And Bernd mentioned it last night, and it's something we can go over another time. I don't know if Scotland gets past Ukraine. It would be a great story if Scotland's able to do it coming off the Euros. And we talked about this a little bit last night. They're starting to develop more technical players and to kind of build more of a style, but it's a slow build. This is going to take a while for Scotland to get to a better functioning spot. So I'm banking on it being Ukraine or Wales coming out of that.
If I've got to take one of those, I'll take Scotland first. I'll take Ukraine second, and I'll take Wales last. But I'll take any of them.
If Scotland gets out of that, I want Scotland in my group because I think you beat Scotland.
I think you comfortably handle Scotland. I think Ukraine can be a challenge, but you should win that. Yep. Wales, you should win too. I mean, Wales, when you just talk about players who can have that day, and when you're in a tournament, look, it doesn't take much to get thrown off. And Wales has a player in Gareth Bale who has that kind of a power. Will he have it then? Will he be playing for Cardiff City? I have no idea. I don't know what that's going to look like, but he's somebody that if I get to choose not to see him, I'll choose not to see him. Peru, I want no part of. They are the one that can screw up the rankings-based pots. I agree with Thomas. Like, for the U.S., for anybody outside of Europe, the rankings-based pots are by far the preferred way to go because you don't get lumped into groups of death in the same way. Peru's the one that can throw it off because out of everybody in pot 4, Peru is the one that can hurt you the most, in my opinion. I think some people would argue Wales. I don't. I think it's Peru. I think Peru is a much stronger team than Australia, UAE. I don't think Peru's great. I think the U.S. should beat Peru. Don't get me wrong. But Peru's the one that can throw off and create a group of death. If you get the top teams out of the other pots, let's say you
England, Senegal, Peru.
Yeah, I mean, let's go France. I think a lot of people look at France as a big favorite. So let's go France. Let's go U.S. or Mexico out of pot 2. Let's go Senegal in pot 3 and Peru out of pot 4. That's rough.
Mm-hmm.
That's not fun.
Wales is the less talented Bizarro Portugal. It's the weirdest insult I've ever heard about the country.
It's kind of fair. We had a question about Peru's odds. They are plus 30,000. Here's the thing about
Buddy, I'll throw $5 down on that.
No, don't waste your money. Give me your $5, Jared. I'll just take it.
No,
I'll give somebody else your $5.
I'll skip a visit to Cookout and put $5 down on the world's
Give me your $5 because you're throwing it in the trash anyway. No offense to Peru.
Jason would take that 5 and go to Cookout and get either a burger or a shake to take.
And I'll eat it.
Yeah.
Get a tray.
Yes, and I'll eat it instead of you giving it to somebody else and wasting it. The World Cup has been won by a very small number of countries.
Yes.
When you get past 5, 6, you're wasting your money on it. I'm sorry. And that goes for the U.S. Look, the U.S. has never been past a quarterfinal in modern times. Brazil's won the thing a bunch. France has won the thing a few times. England's won the thing once when they hosted it. I don't know if they're the third best team according to the odds, but okay. Spain has won it once. Germany's won it a few times. Argentina's won it a couple of times. Belgium's never won it. Portugal's never won it. The greatness of the Dutch, they've never won it. Uruguay won it back in the day, 1950 last time. But they won it.
Uruguay?
Yes.
Yeah, they won the first one too, I believe.
They won the first one. They won two, but we're talking 1930 and 1950.
Yeah, it's been
last time I checked, it's 2022. And no, Luis Suarez did not play in 1950. Edinson Cavani either.
He was called into camp, though.
Allegedly, yes. That's it. Like, that's what
Luis
you got
Suarez
who's here.
Luis Suarez is going to make a run at the Golden Boot just to infuriate literally everyone. He's just not going to stop, and I appreciate his heel existence a lot. Because the man was scoring goals like they were like it was a walk in the park for him during CONMEBOL qualifying, and I'm just tickled that Luis Suarez, pending biting someone again or doing something dumb.
It's been a long time since he's done that, Jared. It's 8 years.
I know, and that's where I'm going with this. It's been 8 years since that happened, and in the meantime, he's just going to keep on scoring goals and antagonizing people who are still mad at him. Go do you, Luis Suarez. Please compete for the Golden Boot in this tournament so I can laugh.
The World Cup is the hardest tournament in sports to win. It's incredibly difficult. Italy's won it a number of times. They're not even here. This is tough. So does somebody break through this time? Does somebody who's never won it break through? That was kind of the thought when the World Cup started moving into some different places. In 94 when it came to the U.S., Brazil won it. Same in 70 when it was in Mexico for the first time. Brazil won it. When it was back there in 86 when it was supposed to be in Colombia, and then Colombia couldn't do it and it goes to Mexico, Argentina won it. They had won it 2 tournaments prior. When it goes to South Africa, that's where you did have a new breakthrough, but it was a team that was on the rise. We saw coming with Spain. 2002, it goes to Asia. Brazil wins it. So maybe you're looking at Brazil when it's bouncing around to some new places. It's Brazil who always seems to win the thing. But no, it's really hard. The Dutch have been close a number of times. They haven't won it. 74, 78, 2010, final. Nope. Croatia got to the final last time. Furthest they've been. England got to semifinal last time. That was the furthest they'd been since 90, and only the second time they'd been to the semis since they won it in 66 when they hosted. It's really, really difficult to win this thing. So there's just, when you start going through these odds, you are looking at pedigree, you are looking at where the players are, but you are looking at some history, and it's just really hard to break through. The best odds on a team that has not won the tournament before is Belgium at plus 1,200, then Portugal, then the Netherlands, then Denmark. Okay. We'll see. I mean, Argentina's on a great unbeaten run. Brazil's Brazil. They set a record for points in South America. England is continuing to rise. Do they take that step to a World Cup final this time? Spain is on the way back. France is quality. Germany, after a little bit of a slow start in qualifying, they're fine. You got a ton of heavyweights. I'm just wondering, out of teams that haven't won the World Cup before, Jarrett, quickly, who is the most likely out of non-World Cup winners to make the semifinals this time?
Belgium feels like that.
I'm not buying Belgium. I don't know what it is. I think it's just the.
I don't want to buy Belgium, but
I'm not buying into them.
I don't want to buy them, but they feel like that kind of team who can. This will be the last thing before I know I'm running up on my time. The U.S. won't have to play them because they're in the same federation. You saw last night why, if they beat New Zealand, if I'm another country, I don't want anything to do with Costa Rica.
They're not going to a semifinal. Forget it.
I'm not saying they're going to a semifinal. I
that was the
apologize. I tried to jump questions. I apologize. I should have clarified for you.
Yeah, I was like, whoa. Now I like Keylor Navas. Whoa, Jared.
Yeah, I'm looking at the groups or the pots, and if I'm another country, I don't want anything to do with Costa Rica in my group. I don't want to have to get a result and Keylor Navas turns into a kaiju again, and Joel Campbell, CONCACAF After Dark's his way into something. Or
the Keylor Navas part, yes, because just like we talked about strikers who can ruin your day, you got to look at goalkeepers who can ruin your day in a tournament.
That's why I don't want Senegal. I don't want Mendy.
I want Mendy or Sadio Mane. They got both.
No, but I don't want to have to deal with hey, Keylor Navas stood on his head. Then what happened? Kendall Waston just turned in a header. He threw somebody down, jumped on someone else's back, turned in a header, and we lost 1-0, and Keylor Navas made 15 saves. I don't want to have to live in that world if I'm in another country. How do you feel about Ecuador making a dark horse run?
I said I think they're going to be a problem. I don't know about semifinal. That's a huge step up. But, yeah, I think they're going to be a problem. I think they can be an absolute problem.
Senegal fits that if you're looking for somebody who has those pieces.
Senegal can be a problem.
Denmark could be a problem.
Not as high on them, but maybe.
I don't know how how strongly I feel about Mexico. I know everybody in Mexico was losing their minds for a team that ultimately qualified was fine. Shout out as well. I thought it said a lot last night with everybody running over to hug Tata after they scored the first goal.
Oh, that was intentional. When you got Miguel Herrera popping off at the mouth in the media saying that, they should fire Tata and he should be the guy, the players went to Tata because of that, because of Hugo Sanchez, who's saying that, it should be a Mexican coach and all these things. Yeah, they went to Tata because they support Tata. I was glad to see that.
Yeah, we've been over this before. I think we said this when he took the job. If Tata gets them out of the round of 16, he's immortal.
Fifth game.
Just get Mexico over that hill that they've never gotten over.
The fifth game.
Yeah,
it's the mythical thing for Mexico. They haven't been able to get there.
Get over that hill, and you will be immortalized, sir.
I'm not buying it. I honestly feel like this is a
I'm not saying
favorites right now.
I'm just saying get over the mythical game.
No, but I don't think they have the talent to get to the fifth game. I think in previous times it was more mental. This time I don't think they're good enough to get to the fifth game. I think it's different.
So if I got to pick
favorites tournament,
if I got to pick three clubs for that semifinal that have never made it before, give me Denmark, Senegal, and Ecuador.
Wow, you're going way out on limbs. Okay.
I am. The limb is about to break where I'm sitting.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy. You should probably go get checked out and stuff in the second hour of the show before you go put money on Scotland to do something or anybody else.
No, it was Peru. Remember, it was 30,000 to 1 odds.
Peru, yeah. Just give me your money instead, Jarrett.
No, I'm keeping my money. Thank you very much.
Okay, well, that's fine.
But I thought you were putting $5 down on something.
No, he's not. We talked him out of it, thankfully.
Okay. You talked me out of it. I'm going to go to Cookout instead.
Okay. That's better. I would have rather taken your money, but it's better that you do something with it than the juice box purveyors. So good job, Jared.
4-card. You had me pick 4 teams that haven't won a World Cup, and I took 3 teams that haven't won a World Cup.
You still were
semifinal, and I just decided to approach this the same way I approach picking my MLS teams.
Rooting for chaos.
Honestly, not even that. Ecuador, you don't want any problems with. Denmark was impressive in the Euros. I don't know if they can carry it over. I don't know if they're the same team. I haven't watched Denmark closely enough to know.
I don't think so, but I'm not putting them that high. I mean, I think it's you're going by the odds. The odds aren't crazy here in terms of who's next. Belgium should be breaking through at some point. This is kind of the last run with this group. They should. We'll see if they do. Portugal can. Portugal absolutely can. Talking about a team that hasn't won the World Cup that can get to a semifinal. The Dutch can pull that off. Croatia did it last time. Yeah. Luka Modric is 4 years older. I don't think he's going to be the player of the tournament, but Croatia could do it. But it's really hard. Like when you get past Brazil, when you get past France, when you get past England, when you get past Spain, Germany, Argentina, that top 6, man, I feel like there's a giant drop-off after them. A huge drop to Belgium, Portugal, Netherlands, Denmark. Huge. I think it's a favorites kind of tournament this time around. We'll see. Thanks, Jarrett. We'll talk to you. I think maybe you'll talk to John tomorrow about the draw, possibly.
I might. And Ricky, to answer your question, who is the Gonzaga of this? It's Belgium. Who's that club who doesn't win? Whoever was like, this is their year. They look good.
Yeah.
They got here. They're looking good. This could be it. Belgium is the Gonzaga.
Historically, it's been the Netherlands, but right now it's Belgium. Good job, Jared.
Thanks.
Bye.
We'll see you.
John, tell us about our good friends over at Eliminize.
I can certainly do that. Eliminize service for odor-free, clean, fresh air. QR code for those of you watching on Twitch. Deodorizing enclosed spaces like houses, apartments, and condos, Eliminize has created a customized solution that eliminizes all organic odors, including those like pet cigarettes and food. Realtors and property managers use Eliminize service to eliminate bad odors to help them sell or rent those facilities that much faster. It's a turnkey process. Makes it easy to work with realtors and property managers, kind of the environment. We like that these days. It is a green way to get rid of odors without any kind of toxic residue, different than our favorite masking agents that we have under the sink, because when you spray those masking agents into the air, all they do is take care of the odor. They don't attack the problem. Eliminize does that all the way down to the molecule with their proven scientific formula. Pricing very, very easy. One of two ways, either by cubic feet or parts per million, to come up with a pricing range that is affordable for you. Offering results in 24 hours or less. If you have any other questions, frequently asked or otherwise, go to the website, eliminize.com, but do us a favor here at SDH. Go /Atlanta after the .com so the folks at Eliminize know what part of the world you are reaching out to them from. So it is ELIMINIZE.com /Atlanta, eliminize.com /Atlanta. For odor-free, clean, fresh air. Eliminize service, proud sponsors of everything SDH.
All right, a couple of reminders before we get into hour number 2. Niko Moreno is going to join us at 10:30. We're going to talk some more World Cup qualifying, but we're going to get into the MLS weekend ahead. No live show in the morning, but there will be a show posted before the normal time. So be on the lookout for that. I'll go through the MLS weekend. I'll give you my predictions. I'll give you a couple thoughts on the games. We'll talk about that. We'll talk some Atlanta, D.C., and you will hear tomorrow morning from Jackson Conway. Get a chance to talk to him this afternoon. You'll get to hear that in the morning recorded show tomorrow. And then John will have a reaction show to the World Cup draw in the afternoon, probably at about 9 p.m. when it is all completed. Exactly. After the musical performances and who knows what else. Mm-hmm. Couple of things from the Twitch pitch before we get into news. Alex Bassine has told us that we are all wasting our time. We can't talk about any of this until the draw is done. Alex, why are you ruining fun? First off, I'm disappointed in you because I thought you liked fun. Second, actually you can now because of the way the draw is conducted. It's not the old days of complete and utter chaos because it's done geographically. It's done by rankings. Trust me, they've been talking about it nonstop on TIC in Argentina since yesterday, and they've done all their mock draws and all these different things, and it's chaos. So yeah, you can talk about it in general, and that's where I've tried to keep it. In general, I feel like the U.S. should be expected to get out of the group. In general, there's some draws you like more than others. In general, well, not in general, we know the rules. We know how it can be structured. We know some things to watch for. We can talk about a good bit of it. But yeah, once we have the draw, then you can talk matchups. Then you can talk about the rest of it. In terms of talking about who's expected to go through and all of that, it's not about pathways, honestly. It's about, I really feel like there's a huge drop off after the top 6 teams in the world. And I think the top 6. Okay, that's what I'm getting to, Alex. I'm coming to this part of what you were talking about. Man, Alex, defensive today. I like it. Yeah, I think you can talk about which teams are expected or not expected to go far. Because the way I'm talking about it, obviously things could get weird. Obviously, a top seeded team could end up in a second place spot and end up throwing the bracket off. Sure. But what I'm saying is there is a giant drop off, in my opinion, from Brazil, France, England, Spain, Germany, Argentina to the next 6: Belgium, Portugal, Netherlands, Denmark, Croatia, Uruguay. I feel like it's a huge separation between those. So, in my opinion, it feels like a very favorites chalk kind of tournament because of the quality of the teams coming in. Not about the draw, not about pathways, not about any of that. Because of the quality. I just feel like there's a big separation. We'll see. Of course things change. They always do. What if Lionel Messi gets hurt? What if Cristiano Ronaldo gets hurt? What if Harry Kane gets hurt? What if Kylian Mbappe gets hurt? I mean, we can go through all that. We can go through what if, what if Neymar gets red carded in the first game and you miss him for the second game, and then they come in second in the group instead of first. Like, it changes the bracket. Of course, things will change. But in general, I feel like there are 6 teams that have a legit opportunity to be in the semifinals and beyond. And there are others that need a lot of help to get there. Previous tournaments haven't felt that way to me. Previous tournaments, it's felt like there could be groups that break through. But I really feel like there's a big gap. And even in that 6, I've got more questions about Spain than anybody else in that 6. They're just so young. But Argentina can win the World Cup this year. Mm-hmm. Germany can win the World Cup this year. England can. France can. Brazil can. Spain would be a surprise. But I think they could. I feel better about them winning it than anybody else that's left. So that's kind of where I'm at looking at this stuff. We'll see where it goes. Sorry to ruin your fun, Mr. Pacine. Some other stuff from the World Cup conversation going on right now. 804,000 tickets have been sold for matches at the World Cup in the first phase without knowing where people are going to be. Now, it's a very small country, so if you buy tickets one place, you're talking about like an hour drive to get to the other place or whatever. Like, you can work it out. Outside of the hosts, Qatar, the United States is number 2 in buying tickets. England is next, Mexico, UAE, Germany, India, Brazil, Argentina, and Saudi Arabia. A lot of tickets have been bought for the opening match because you know what it is. A lot of tickets have been bought for the final. Duh. Fans who were not able to buy tickets during the first phase will have a random selection draw sales period on the FIFA website on April 5th. And then fans will know exactly where games are and where everything is, and they can buy tickets specifically for games. Gianni Infantino is technically accurate when he says that to the World Soccer leadership, as they are all in Qatar getting ready for the draw and talking and having conferences and such, he is technically correct, and he says that FIFA had never proposed an idea for a 2-year World Cup. That's true. They never proposed that. They did a study, and he tried to sell it like a used car salesman. But he didn't propose it. So, yes, he's correct. The spirit of it, no, he's not correct. He told assembled heads of World Football this morning that FIFA had not been proposing the move. He said, "Let me be very clear that FIFA has not proposed a biennial process. The last FIFA Congress passed to the administration a vote with 88% voted in favor to study the feasibility of the World Cup every 2 years. FIFA administration, under the leadership of Arsene Wenger, then started a feasibility. FIFA did not propose it. It concluded that it is feasible, that it would have some repercussions and impacts." He's correct. They did not propose it. There's not been a vote on that. But he's pushed it hard, and it's not going to happen. There's no way it's going to happen now. Everybody has come out against it. Players, leagues, all of it. It's not going to happen. They're going to pivot to some other form of a tournament in the 2-year cycle in between. Similar to what they did with Confederations Cup, which used to be the year before the World Cup. I like the idea that Montegliani of CONCACAF proposed, where you basically do an expanded version of that, do a 16-team tournament in the 2 years in between. You do have to get all of your things sorted out with the Euros, with Copa America, with Gold Cups, with AFCONs. Get everything on correct cycles. Try to get those in the odd number years. Get the World Cup every 4. Get this other world tournament of some sort every 4, but in between the World Cups. Make it where you qualify through your continental championships, and it's smaller. You don't have a separate qualification process. You qualify through existing things. Do it. Cool. If you want to do it where the defending European champion and the defending UEFA Nations League champion go in. Cool. Whatever. That's fine. Figure it out. Do it that way. Don't create more games, but you can have that tournament and make money. And it's not going to be as disruptive. Do that, please. The disruption would have come from qualification process every 2 years, which would have been impossible with everything else going on. If you just do the Confederations Cup and expand it, you can make that happen. The FIFA Council on Wednesday adopted the new regulations about loan signings. We've talked about this as it's been, chatted up coming into it. 8 international loan signings in and 8 loaned out starting next season, 7 the following year, 6 from 2024-25 and beyond. New regulations start for the upcoming year. They go into force July 1st. Homegrown players and those under the age of 21 are exempt. That was always the plan. Regulations also include the introduction of a minimum duration of a loan deal would be between 2 transfer windows, while the maximum duration would be 1 year. So you can't have these multiple year loans now. That's a change. Maximum of 3 professionals loaned out to a single club. Maximum of 3 professionals loaned in from a single club. So you can't have like your baby clubs basically and loan a whole bunch of guys there. Now, MLS and MLS Next Pro, no, that's not the same thing. It would be Chelsea loaning 10 players to their Belgian friends. No, you can't do that. It's 3. That's the max. We talked about the timeline. World Cup kicking off November 21st. Clubs will release their players after games on the weekend of November 11th to the 13th. 21st is a Monday. The 13th is a Sunday. You're going to have about a week if you're in that first game. It's going to be very different. Very, very different. In Africa, Augustine Eguavoen, the former now manager of Nigeria, he stepped down after they did not qualify. 56 years old. He was the interim. They had sacked Gernot Rohr back in December. Eguavoen got the team to the last 16 of the AFCON. They didn't qualify. He's out. Senegal, Egypt, that game, laser pointers, all kinds of stuff, bus being attacked, racist chanting banners being alleged. FIFA has vowed to examine the match reports before deciding on the next steps. Statement that says they are currently in the process of analyzing official match reports. The relevant information included in the match reports will be evaluated by the competent disciplinary bodies before deciding on the next steps to be taken. Okay, I don't know what that could entail, but we'll find out. Do they make them replay it? I mean, I guess they could. If I was Egypt, I would have not taken penalties. I wouldn't have allowed penalties to be taken with all those lasers. You have also had from Algeria a official appeal submitted to FIFA against, quote, and this is from the Algerian statement, the scandalous arbitration that distorted the result of the return match between Algeria and Cameroon. I might have missed something. I don't remember any scandalous arbitration.
I don't know either.
This does happen sometimes in some parts of the world where big statements are made about, we're appealing. Yes, we were not treated fairly. We did not lose fairly. It's not right. And it's all posturing. I don't know of anything in that game that's going to happen. I got nothing. So I don't think anything happens there. Senegal, Egypt is complicated. We'll see how they do it. If I was Egypt, I would have forced the issue.
Mm-hmm.
I would have forced the issue. Talking about how difficult qualifying is, CONCACAF, top 5 teams in the Ocho, Canada, Mexico, U.S., Costa Rica, Panama, 35 home games in qualifying. Those top 5 teams only lost 1 time at home. It's tough to win on the road in CONCACAF. I mean, disagree all you want, and you can point to FIFA rankings, and you can point to stuff. All that's true. Those numbers are real. It's very hard to beat good teams in CONCACAF on the road, and that's 5 of 8 that only lost 1 game at home. So it's tough. It's very, very tough. Yes, burned. World record for women's soccer match at the Camp Nou, 91,000 in attendance for the Clásico Femenil. It's a great spectacle. It is absolutely a great spectacle, but it has to be a more consistent thing. One spectacle doesn't change anything to me. Is Barcelona going to play more games at the Camp Nou? Because that's not where they play the women's matches. I hope so. I hope this changes things. I hope it opens up eyes. But I got to see the next steps. On the field, Barcelona's wonderful. Bernd watched it, talked about how Real Madrid was very brave. It's good to see Madrid going into the women's game in the right way and doing it in the right manner and having a team that plays good soccer. Barcelona is the best at this, in my opinion, on the women's side at the club level. I hope that the club treats the women's team even more importantly based off of this. I really hope that happens. They're going to play the semifinals at the Camp Nou. That's awesome. I hope they start playing some league games there. I hope it elevates everything. But it's got to be a regular thing. It's got to be a regular thing, and that's what I'm hoping for. Maybe not every game. That's fine. But big games, when you play Real Madrid in La Liga Femenil, played at the Camp Nou. And I hope Real Madrid does the same the other way. I hope that this changes things for the future. I really do. Rumors and innuendo. Calvin Phillips has told Leeds he wants to sign a new contract. He might not be leaving. The Leeds boy. So still a little surprising with the heavyweights chasing him. But yes, he's telling Leeds, according to the Mirror, that he wants to sign a new contract. And that's been talked about for a little while. Manchester United chasing Harry Kane from Tottenham. They could send Anthony Martial that way as a make weight. ESPN says every time we talk about make weights in these deals, it never happens. No. I can only think of like one or two times that it's happened in any form or fashion. So I'm not buying it. If Harry Kane goes to Manchester United, Anthony Martial is going to be out the door. Yes. But does he go to Tottenham in the deal? We'll see. Newcastle, according to Fabrizio Romano, chasing Bologna's Scottish left back Aaron Hickey, 19 years old, 15 to 20 million pounds. Good purchase. Good deal. If you can pull that off, good deal. And that's a good number too. Newcastle, where the conversation is currently, and Alex, if you're still with us, please check in if I'm wrong here. Seems like they're saying their budget is somewhere in the 90 to 100 million range of what they're going to spend. However, if they are persuaded that there is a great deal out there and they would like to spend more, the money is there for them to spend more. If, for example, Neymar became available and he wanted to go to Newcastle, yes, they would find the cash and get it done. But the plan is 90 to 100 is what they've said. They have made it clear that there is the special kitty to the side if they need to dip into it. But 90 to 100 is where they want to be in terms of what they're spending. A 15 to 20 million pound move for Aaron Hickey, 19 years old. Good fit. Good fit. Feyenoord winger from Colombia, Luis Sinisterra, is being checked out by Arsenal, by Atleti, and by Napoli. Bayer Leverkusen are the ones who might get him, though, as they're looking to replace Diaby. 15 million euro is what the number is looking at there. But Leverkusen are being linked to him, according to Italian reports. Speaking of Italy, Luciano Spalletti this weekend for Napoli. They're 3 points back in Serie A, the best title race in Europe among the major leagues. They're missing a whole bunch of people. They're missing Osimhen this weekend. They're missing Rahmani this weekend due to suspensions. They got 3 players injured. There could be more. They had some guys get hurt over the international break. Zielinski is the biggest one for Poland, forced off the pitch in the final moments. Unlikely to see him play this weekend against Atalanta in Bergamo. That's a tough one on the road for Napoli, and they got to get something out of it because this title race is getting tricky. In England, Everton, the accounts, we've talked about their financials, losses of 120 million pounds for 2020, 2021. They attribute 103 million of that to the pandemic. They spend 182 million pounds on wages, players on average of 85,000 pounds per week. Moshiri's keeping the club afloat. He's putting the money in, but if they don't stay in the Premier League, they're one of those that you could see a big uh-oh. Now, they're going to get their parachute payments and all that, but it's going to be, if they get relegated, the pressure to go back in 1 year is incredible. And they should. They would by far be expected to do that. But if they don't, those financials, then you're looking at a Portsmouth. You're looking at an old Leeds situation. You're looking at,
Sunderland?
Yeah, I mean, you name 5-6 different clubs. So we know who we're talking about here. It's going to be very hard for them to overcome if they don't make it back immediately. So we'll see. And in the Netherlands, Ruud van Nistelrooy is expected to become the PSV manager. He will become the PSV manager in the summer, his first senior managerial role. He's replacing Roger Schmidt. His contract is up. Van Nistelrooy started at PSV, then went to Manchester United, won a Premier League title. 62 goals in 67 games for PSV between 98 and 2001. And 45-year-old Ruud van Nistelrooy joining the managerial carousel.
Word also out of the Premier League this morning, once again, courtesy of our friend Martin Ziegler. Premier League statement. Premier League shareholders met today, discussed a range of matters. Clubs agreed to change the rules relating to substitute players. From next season, clubs will be permitted to use 5 substitutions to be made on 3 occasions during a match with an additional opportunity at halftime. A total of 9 substitutes can be named on the team sheet. About time. Premier League.
So they did what they made a big deal about saying they would do yesterday.
Yes, they did.
Okay, good.
They finally followed through on the idea that should have been an idea a long time ago.
Good job. Well, IFAB has been talking as well lately, and they have made this part of the official rules now. I think people have misunderstood it. They give competitions involving the first teams of clubs in the top division the option of allowing teams to use up to 5 subs. That is officially now part of the rules. It was a temporary thing during the pandemic. Now leagues have the option to go 5 subs. It's fully backed by IFAB. Most leagues have and will continue to do so. The Premier League is finally caught up. Now, also, they are trialing an offside rule. Now, I don't know where they're trialing this. Curious to see where that would be, but they are trialing a change to the offside rule. And it's the one that we've talked about a good bit, where you are onside if any part of your body is in line with the second last defender. So basically it changes that if any part of your body is offside, you're offside. It's if any part of your body is onside, you're onside. They're trialing it. FIFA will update IFAB on the ongoing trial. It could go into effect in 2023. I don't think so. I think they're probably going to want more than 1 year of trial, and they're not doing the trials in any high-profile things that I've heard about.
I haven't heard.
Probably doing it in reserve leagues and youth leagues and such in different places around the world. But I'm intrigued by that. I want to hear more about it. That's where it stands right now. Jason Nix is yelling at us because we're not giving an Atlanta United match preview. Jason, you've listened to this show for a number of years, my friend. We are going to talk Atlanta United, but we do talk about everything else too around here. And it's a big time with a World Cup draw tomorrow, with the U.S. qualifying for the World Cup, with all this news everywhere. We're going to talk plenty of Atlanta United as well. We're going to have Niko Moreno on here in just a bit. We're going to talk about Atlanta in that. We're going to talk about what he thinks about Atlanta and D.C. We're going to talk about Seattle, where Niko is located. We're going to talk about Colombia not reaching the World Cup. And Niko says he's ready to let it all out. Oof. I'm afraid. We're going to talk about CONCACAF. We're going to talk about everything with Niko Moreno coming up in about 5 minutes. So Jason Nix doesn't yell at me anymore. There are shows tomorrow, Jason. There's just not a live show in the morning because I got to get on a plane.
Yeah.
Because I got to do play-by-play on radio on Saturday from Audi Field with Jeff Lorenowitz, by the way, which will be a lot of fun.
Very cool.
We had a good time doing the NYC game last year. Mike Conti on TV with Mo Adu, with Jillian Sakovitz. I'm doing play-by-play from Audi Field with Jeff Lorenowitz. So lots of stuff. We'll talk about Atlanta and DC for just a little bit here, but I'll talk about it in more detail tomorrow on the recorded show that will go out in the morning. I'll get deeper into it there because Gonzalo Pineda is going to speak to the media this morning after we're done and give you some updates. I don't know where things stand with Luis Araujo. We've seen pictures of Franco Ibarra in training. We've heard from Santiago Sosa that he is ready to go. He's a full go. He says he's a full go. The lineup is going to be very interesting. I don't expect Miles Robinson to start after the minutes he played during this past window. And look, don't be mad at Greg Berhalter. That's his prerogative. Like, people were yelling about play the regular guys. Don't play the regular guys. Do this, do that. I mean, he's in a no-win anyway. And every manager of players who played a lot of minutes were probably sending him texts and sending him messages and sending him DMs and all of the things like, hey, rest my guy. Hey, rest my dude. Hey, I'll buy you dinner if you rest my dude. Probably all kinds of things with that. So he's in a no-win. He's got to do what his job is. His job is not Atlanta United. So I don't think Miles plays this weekend. I think it's Alan Franco and George Campbell. I'm thinking it's Franco because we haven't heard anything about further injury with him after he had to leave the last game 45 minutes in. Alan Franco, George Campbell, I'm not really worried about. Santi Sosa can play as a center back too if you need it. Alex DeJohn played 90 against Charleston for Atlanta United too. He can play as a center back if needed. You're good. I don't think Miles plays. I do think Brooks Lennon starts on the right side because I think you're going to get Thiago Almada from the start. I think you're going to get Marcelino Moreno from the start, and you're going to have to make room for them in the attack. Do you get Luis Araujo from the start? No way to know yet. I don't think so. Even if he's available, I don't think he starts. I think you're looking at some front three of Moreno, Almada, Joseph. And do you make it a front four with a Tyler Wolff coming back from the U20s or a Jake Mulroney? All possible. But I think Almada, Moreno come in. I think the right wing is then closed for Brooks. And I think Brooks becomes the right back because he's been killing it lately. And Ronald Hernandez had a bad game last time out. He did play 90 against Colombia in World Cup qualifying. He did concede a penalty that Colombia scored on and won the game on. But in general, Hernandez had a better game there than he did for Atlanta last time out. And he's had a good start to the season. But Brooks has been better, and I think Brooks plays at right back. What the midfield looks like is the biggest question for me. Ozzy Alonso, does he start? Does he come off the bench? Do you start Sosa and Alonso together? Then that sits Hosechu, who I don't think you sit. My guess is you'd like to see Sosa and Hosechu and have Alonso available off the bench. I think you're going to see plenty of Ozzy Alonso starting the rest of the way at different points, sometimes with Sosa, sometimes in place of him. But I don't think he's going to be the regular starter all year long. He wasn't that last year in Minnesota. I don't think the expectation was that here. He's had to because of Sosa's offseason sports hernia surgery. I think you want to get Sosa going. A lot of it depends on how he's trained, and we haven't seen that. Outside of that, I mean, DC, I don't think DC has looked very consistent this season. They had 2 wins early. They didn't look great against Charlotte in a 3-0 win. They didn't look 3-0 good. They were very even with Cincinnati, but got a very late penalty to win that. They lost 2-0 in horrible conditions, frigid conditions against Chicago. It's a tough watch. That game was just really difficult. They've had some injuries as well. Michael Estrada was out after starting well. I still don't know the deal with Ola Kamara. Bill Hamid's been great for them this season. He's been outstanding in absolute top form. Beyond that, there's some weaknesses there. I think they're a very aggressive team defensively, but that right side is what I keep looking at with Andy Nahar playing as a right center back. He's really a right back or a wing back, and Julian Grissel playing wing back, and he's not a great defender. I think that's the side that you got to worry about defensively with Andrew Gutman and probably getting some help, but you can also exploit it when you attack. And that's where I think Atlanta will focus, trying to attack behind Nahar and Gressel. I think they can really take advantage of that.
And yeah, I think that after last year, you would have thought that with DC that there would have been some kind of a progression and an improvement in form, but that has not happened. And if you're a fan, obviously, of Atlanta United, you sit there and you think that DC can be had, especially if you look at what we've seen from DC and what we haven't seen from DC in these first couple of matches this year. So, obviously going on the road in Major League Soccer is traditionally very tough. And, you've mentioned not having, Miles because of international team play and things like that. But once again, that's why this roster is constructed the way that it is, with the injuries that have been a part of Atlanta United so far this year. That's why this roster has been constructed the way that it has. And so I think that you look at this matchup against a team that can be had in DC, and there should be reason for optimism here to get a result out of DC.
Yeah, there should be. Chicago went there and got a win. Again, conditions were terrible. It was like 20 degrees and you had snow cleared from the field and all of that. But DC's not really a possession-based team, and Chicago is more of one, and Chicago was able to deal with it and still create chances. I think that's the biggest thing looking at DC's team is they're not a big chance creation team. A lot of that stuff comes from their pressure. They're one of the more aggressive teams. Not purely with a high press, and they're not a team. They're like 50-50 in possession. So they're kind of somewhere between your Almeidas, your Bielsas, who are aggressive with pressure, but then want to keep the ball. But they're not as like against that as your Red Bulls and your Phillies are, where they're aggressive with the pressure and then they want to go to goal as fast as possible. They will knock the ball around a little bit. We know what Julian Gressel can do. Edinson Flores is a great player for them with the Peruvian national team, who played a lot of minutes over this break with Peru. Where's he going to be in terms of fitness? Michael Estrada didn't play a ton. He didn't start both games. He started one. He came in both games. I think he played a little over 100 minutes for Ecuador. Where's he going to be at coming back into this window? DC is a team that is a little vanilla right now, and I'm a little surprised by that. I expected a progression from them with Hernan Losada, but they didn't add a ton in the offseason. Estrada can be a good addition. I just don't get the Ola Kamara thing. I don't know if they just don't want him. They don't think he fits the system. I don't get it. And that's a little bit of an issue with them. Nigel Robertha has been interesting for them, the Dutch forward. I think Estrada is the most dangerous. I don't know if Estrada is necessarily the best fit for the system. DC's a weird one to get a read on right now. So far this season, if I'm giving you a quick story on DC, they've been pretty good defensively. 2 clean sheets in those first 2. Bill Hamid's been outstanding. Brendan Hines-Ike has been very good. Birnbaum in the air, maybe the best in the league. They do the thing with 3 center backs with Nahar as a right center back where he gets forward and it kind of turns into a line of 4 there and it gets lopsided. That can throw you off if you're not ready for it. Hopefully Atlanta's ready for that. Midfield, they're starting to get more out of Jafal, the draft pick out of Oregon State. He's a very technical player coming out of the French academy system, but is he ready physically for the challenges in MLS? I'm not sure. I'm not ready if he's ready for the physical challenges that DC requires of their players. They play in a 3-4-3 kind of a shape, but again, it gets lopsided with Nahar getting forward. So I just don't think it's come together for them yet. And I think really it's not going to until they get a little more clarity on what their lineup's going to be and what happens with Ola Kamara. I don't know if they get that this week. It's in their place. That's always just tough going on the road in this league. It's never easy, but this is a road game that I think Atlanta United should be looking at as an opportunity to get 3 points in. And they have to play their best and they have to take care of business. But I feel like this is a game where they can look at it and say, yeah, we can go in here and win this, because some of the things that Atlanta can do can specifically hurt DC. And I really think the game is won by Atlanta if they win this on the left side, getting in behind Nahar, getting in behind Gressel, preventing them from hurting you in the attack, but then getting in behind in transition. I think Andrew Gutman could be essential in this match. Let's get our friend Niko Moreno on the show, get his thoughts from the Pacific Northwest. How's the coffee this morning, Niko?
Nice and strong, my friend. Nice and strong. I'm all in black because I'm still mourning the loss of Colombia and Lucho Diaz being at CONMEBOL. But here we are, nice and strong, getting ready to get happy with y'all.
So I'm going to ask you the question that I saw making the rounds on Tuesday. I can't remember the journalist from Colombia who had it, but asking about who people want to see as the replacement for Reynaldo Rueda, because he's gone. Who would you like to see Colombia hire?
Man, that's a tough one. I mean, at this point in time, I would love to say that I have a specific candidate, but anybody who I say right now would be outrageous, right? I could say Gallardo right now, and you'd be like, really? Is that really who you want?
Name is made the round.
That's who I want, right? But I mean, it's not realistic, right? That's kind of one of the things that I'm struggling with as we do quite a few of these shows. The name Oscar Pareja was, around Colombian media. That's a guy who I would be okay with, because what I don't want is the same old Colombian coach with the exact same tactics, exact same approach to the game, right? Because it would not be beyond the federation, to go back to Pinto or Gomez or, even Suarez. I mean, right? I mean, obviously Suarez with Costa Rica or whatever, but those are guys that are always the same names, same narrative constantly, right? Yeah. Oscar Pareja is a guy that's younger, that has more of a outbrought outlook into soccer. He kind of built himself out of Colombia, and that makes me feel a little bit better about it. What I do think is that whoever it is, aside from Oscar Pareja, I don't think that the coach should be Colombian. I think that he should be, Argentine, somewhere in South America. I would preferably like to see, but just not another Colombian coach with the exact same tactics. And honestly, unfortunately, there isn't a real good head coach right now in Colombia that I would be willing to say, hey, this is the guy. And that has been sort of what the federation has wanted, unfortunately, right? Because Osorio comes into the picture. They're talking about, his issues with America. I don't want Osorio. That's another guy that, yes, he's innovative and interesting, but he's just not the guy for the Colombian national team to really take the next step forward. What I do want to see, though, is that this gets done immediately. After Peckerman was let go from Colombia, it took over 200 days to get the next coach. That's 200 days of missing work, of a guy that could have come in there and done some small cycles, some mini camps, some friendlies, whatever, coaches need to do to prepare a base for a serious contender with the talent that Colombia has. So that's what I want to see. I want to see it get done quick, and I want to see it get done right.
Well, there is a manager who is available right now who has taken 2 different teams to the World Cup out of South America and could start tomorrow. Marcelo Bielsa.
Oh, hey, you know what?
That name's been making the rounds.
I'm okay with Bielsa.
What he did with Chile was spectacular. And if you give him the reins, would the Colombian Federation, we know Marcelo will want it his way. There will be no questions about it. If he takes it, he's probably going to get to remake the training facility because he loves to do the architectural stuff. I don't know. It's weird. But he's going to want everything his way. And if it's not fully checked off, he won't take it. Will the Colombian Federation do whatever it takes to get Marcelo Bielsa in your mind?
Look, Bielsa is a guy that either you hate him or you love him. But at the end of the day, that guy has the pedigree, has the attitude, has the vision to definitely do something adequately with the federation. So I would be happy. And, if they need an extra check for $200, I got it right here. But it's honestly something out of the box. And from a guy that can come into that locker room and demand immediate respect because of what he's done, his character, his ability to deal with players. So, yeah, absolutely. At this point in time, those are the requirements. If it's everything that I wanted, not a Colombian coach with a different perspective and with the ability to manage that locker room. So, yes, sign him up.
Because that Bielsa, when it comes to the interview process, he's going to come in with his dossier and his PowerPoint and all of the elements that are attached to what he wants when it comes to taking the national team to the next level. And I mean, it might be an earful that the federation may not want to hear, but sometimes you need that kind of a wake-up call if you're going to turn things around. And having Bielsa come in with all of that information that he thinks is important and appropriate for a change, that you're going to get a chance to hear it from him if he walks in the door.
Oh, absolutely. I totally agree. A guy that already has a plan ready for you to put into place. And that's what you need to do if Colombia wants to get back to the World Cup, is a guy like that can just get the traction going in this car immediately. You go back to the Peckerman and when he came on, at that time, he was honestly the second option to the federation's first candidate, which was Tata Martino. Unfortunately, he did not want to go with Colombia. It could be a money thing. It could have been a program thing, but he didn't want to do that. So if we can go for a guy like Bielsa as the main front guy, someone that maybe doesn't have the crazy offers that Tata had, or someone who maybe is willing to take a chance on a new national team, then yeah, I mean, he's definitely a guy that would come in with everything ready to go, and that I would feel like would call the right guys. A national team head coach, I think his number one objective when he first comes in is calling the right guys. I mean, you have so much product out there, right, from each nation. And I think that Bielsa would do that. And that's one of the things that Reinaldo Rueda failed at immediately. Some of the very first teams that he came up with, you were scratching your head when there was talent outside, like Cucho Hernandez, right? And just killing out Watford and just having such a great season. And he never got a call up. Yasser Asprilla is a young guy that gets called up. He does well in a friendly, and then you never call him again. There was no real coherence in the way he would handle friendlies to qualifiers. So just that alone, a guy like Bielsa would have a determined plan, a determined objective, and I think that he would follow through. That's all I'm asking for, man. It's just a guy that has a true process and that can put it into place.
Question from El Mataflow before we move into CONCACAF. How do you feel about the general level of the Colombian game right now? Youth development, the league, where is it? Is this a group that needs a lot of overhaul, or is it a kind of a soccer community in Colombia that just needs the right person calling the shots?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think that the biggest problem in that to his question is the federation, right? The president right now, Ramon Jerusum, is a guy that has failed after Bedoya, who was the prior president of the federation. After he left and Ramon took over, it's just been awful. It's been awful in every aspect of soccer: beach soccer, indoor soccer, of the women league, even the league, the domestic league, has just not looked great, and there's been issues and controversies following the federation. So yes, I think there's a huge overhaul to do in terms of cleaning up house. Unfortunately, these types of dictators have kidnapped the federation, and would be almost impossible to impeach them into getting out of those nice, comfortable salaries and seats. So there is a huge overhaul, but I think that having the right manager, like let's say a Bielsa, would force them on their end to do things their way, right? This is what I have in plan. If you hire me, this is what's going to happen. And Bielsa is a guy that could do that. That's the type of coach that they need. But there is a huge overhaul of things that need to be done at a national level in soccer general for Colombia to really get better. It's imperative, but it's sad that it won't happen. I am glad, though, that these types of situations hurt those individuals in their pockets and in endorsements and everything that they kind of live for. They get hurt on by not going to this World Cup, and I hope that creates some changes.
Sorry, I'm watching on TIC this morning. I guess they're doing a game of legends in Qatar ahead of the draw tomorrow. And Diego Forlan and Bebeto are just killing people right now. It's amazing to watch.
Oh, man, really?
Bebeto scored a goal. Forlan's just hitting these perfect balls. Bebeto's going for full volleys. It's really cool to see. Two of my all-time favorites.
Me too, man. Grew up with both of those guys.
Yeah, Bebeto is always my favorite Brazilian. I'm an Argentine fan, so I'm generally biased against the Brazilians, but Bebeto's the one that, man, I always loved his game.
Yeah, Bebeto and Romario, man, that was a nasty duo.
You should have seen, Nico. We had, when Romario came to USL back in 2007, Romario came to Atlanta with the Silverbacks, with Miami to play the Silverbacks. And Romario at this time, I mean, look, he's partying all the time. He's not taking anything serious. It's the last year of his career. He's like 40 years old. He might have moved, like his heat map would have been like a dot. He barely moved in the game. But who scores the winning goal in stoppage time? Romario. Because he knows exactly what to do in that moment. The one time he takes more than 5 steps, goal. It was so cool to watch like a master of it at that time, even though, he's not really taking it seriously. He can't really run. Just to see that one moment, game needs to be decided. He's got it.
Some of those guys are just magical. I mean, I remember Ronaldinho with Gallos Blancos, right? And he was just in Querétaro just doing whatever he wanted. And he would touch the ball every now and then, but it'd be, a nutmeg or, a nice little Maradona or, just him scoring and doing his little dance. So, yeah, those guys are just magical.
A lot of people got hyped up when Raul came to the Cosmos, but Marco Senna, watching him play with the Cosmos, oh, man, just a textbook on how to play the midfield position. Just amazing.
I will say one last thing about CONMEBOL before we move on is I am very happy for Peru that they made it. They deserve it. They worked hard. They beat Colombia in Barranquilla. They have a process. Ricardo Gareca has done a fantastic job calling every single possible player, including Lapadula, that was off the radar, not Peruvian completely, not a national guy, got heat for it, and still it works. He is the exact coach that can make things happen, that is willing to go the extra mile to make sure that all the guys that really have the possibility of playing for the national team are there, and he did it well. Colombia, the best part out of the Venezuela game was watching every single player that played for Jose Nestor Peckerman going across the bench to hug Jose Nestor Peckerman before the game. Every single one of them are appreciative. They show gratitude and respect. That respect that a coach of his caliber demands. And right there and then, I knew that we weren't going through. The game had not started. And I was already writing about the brilliant moments we had with that man ahead of the team.
Yep. I noticed that before kickoff, the whole staff with Peckerman, it was a huge moment of respect. It was very cool to see, but Peru ends up making it not even any drama. They take care of their business early on. El Bambino, Lapadula, has become a native Peruvian really fast now. He is beloved after what he's done for that team. Let's talk about CONCACAF really quick before we get into MLS. I mean, we kind of knew after the game in Mexico, if the U.S. took care of business against Panama, they're all but in. They looked flat. They looked disinterested last night. They looked tired, too. I mean, no urgency. They passed the ball around nicely. They created shots. Keylor Navas does his Keylor Navas things, but not really a game you get up for because of the situation. Costa Rica goes into the playoff. I think Costa Rica is a team who can qualify. I think they can get it. They can win that playoff, and you could have 4 CONCACAF teams. The story for me in this Ocho, Nico, is Canada. Canada has stepped up and said that I don't care about you United States. I don't care about you, Mexico. We're the best team in CONCACAF right now.
Let me start there. Yes, absolutely. They were a team to watch from the very beginning. They had shown a display of good soccer, of collective soccer, not just in the individual level of Lauren and Davis and Jonathan David, but it was a team that knows how to play. They're very direct. They just show you that identity that I talk about constantly, with that talent and a coach that knew where to put each individual player. And they deserve it. I mean, it is a collision of talent, of nationalities, and just the blossoming and everything that you have been culturing with, Toronto, Vancouver, and Montreal's academies, and how those clubs have grown individually in soccer in general in Canada. So I was happy to see it. I think that they deserve it. They were the best team out of CONCACAF, despite some of the injuries that they had at the very end, and that disappointing loss, obviously, to Panama yesterday. But once again, they rotate players. There's really no need to do much after you knew that you were plus, 16 on the goal differential or something like that. So you knew that you had it in the bag. For the United States, though, I feel like they really missed a chance to do one or the other. I was a bit underwhelmed with the lineup that Berhalter put out there. I mean, if you really were thinking of, I have nothing to lose, let me just play this game and maybe give some of those guys that haven't had a chance some minutes, right? But we go back to Acosta, we go back to Pepe. I mean, after Ferreira did so well, I thought maybe a second game would have done him some good and just kind of get a rhythm, because if we can be critical, or if there is two positions that you're still kind of scratching your head at, is the 9 and the goalkeeper. And I mean goalkeeper just because Zach has looked just underwhelming. He hasn't looked great. Against Panama, he was bad. Here against Costa Rica, he was bad. I mean, both goals are kind of somewhat on him, the second more than the first. But at the end of the day, those are things that you want to see out of your goalkeepers. You can see he's out of rhythm. But the 9 continues to be at least a question mark on who's going to be the guy. So I did want to see a little bit of continuity there. We go back to Acosta, right? And you've heard me here say all kinds of things about maybe just giving some of these other guys an opportunity. Call me whatever you want, a homeless, whatever. Christian Roldan should have been able to get a little bit of time in this one. He didn't. So some of those things I just wanted to see, right? Even George Bello. I mean, you know what you're getting out of the Andrew Jedlin. You already know what you're getting out of the Andrew Jedlin. So if you weren't going to go out there with a more, I don't know, not competitive, but more first lineup type of situation, then maybe don't play Jalen there and try a couple of guys. So I think he felt really in the middle, in a gray area, and he ended up not doing anything, not getting the result, and not giving those other players a lot of time. You talked about them looking tired. Absolutely. Why are they looking tired when you were deciding that this wasn't a game you were going to go all out for, right? Why is Pulisic out there? I mean, I just would like to see make one choice. Don't stay in the gray area. That's just my take on it. That's it. And I thought that they really missed a chance at being the only team to beat Costa Rica in their home stadium. They missed a chance at really getting some momentum. And I get it. Look, the objective was reaching the World Cup. And I agree that if anybody knows, it's me. And it's that is the final objective, and I get it. But whenever you talk about the golden generation, there's an expectation, there is a pressure, and there is a demand for you to, every time you get out on the field, to show that this is that golden generation. Can they learn from this? That, hey, doesn't matter the names out there. There are teams that are going to play you away from your strengths. They're going to pull your weaknesses, and they're going to expose them. Yes, but I just would have liked to see them just go all out for it, or just completely put a team of those players that didn't get any time. Aaron Long, George Bello, Christian Roldan. Do one or the other.
I would have went the latter.
He did nothing yesterday.
Yeah, I would have went the latter because I think, and look, I mean, in the grand scheme of things, and this is where I think we lose the plot sometimes about talking about this in this country. In the grand scheme of things, it doesn't matter because you're qualified and you're in. It is not going to affect anything about your games in June that are going to be vital to get ready for this tournament, and it's not going to affect anything in game one of the tournament. But you lost an opportunity a little bit here, and I think it was almost impossible to ask your starters who you played in this game to be up for it, because they know the situation. They're in, but they're not in. They're not able to go 100% all the way out. You put some guys in who are trying to make a point, and they're going to go 100% all the way out. And you're probably going to get a better performance, a more lively performance, more initiative. You know, you might not win, but you're going to get something out of that. At least you're going to learn, hey, this guy's up for the challenge. This guy's not. This guy doesn't fit what we want to do like I thought he might. This guy does. In what you did last night, you just got through the 90 minutes. And that's fine. That's all you needed to do. But I think you could have gotten more out of it if you had rotated it around a little bit. Go ahead, John.
When it comes to, we've talked about teams that have qualified, teams that haven't qualified, and I'll make this an all-encompassing question that can include both. Who was the biggest surprise for you? And surprise can be good or bad. And who was the biggest disappointment? And that could also be a team that qualified that didn't qualify as high as you anticipated that they might have in both CONMEBOL and CONCACAF. Who were the biggest surprises and disappointments for you?
Well, I was surprised with Costa Rica in CONCACAF. I thought that Suarez really did a great job at just adding points, just getting results, and really getting behind a team that didn't have rotation, didn't have really this new bed of players coming into his system, and he just did it right. He understood what they needed to do, understood their limitations and their attributes, put it together, and was able to manage his way into this World Cup, or at least to the playoff round, giving them a chance. So I thought that was surprising. Obviously, Canada, we had them as our dark horse coming into this qualifiers. We talked about it here in this show, and they obviously just completely went above all expectations. Disappointing. Definitely Honduras. I mean, not winning at least one game with the talent that they have, the pride and the history that they've been able to kind of put together over the last 15 to 20 years. I think they took a huge step back, and it was just sad to see the fan base, the players, just everything about that organization just kind of plummeting down and having no answers for it. In the side of CONMEBOL, disappointment has to absolutely be Colombia, beyond Chile, beyond everything, because they kind of, there was a point in the qualifiers where they had it in the bag, and then they completely just let it go. They couldn't find any answers, where they had no idea what was happening. They dropped game after game after game against Bolivia, against Paraguay. Then they dropped the one in Barranquilla. So in CONMEBOL, the huge disappointment has to be Colombia, because of everything that they were able to do. How, honestly, look, CONMEBOL to me, it has the best soccer in the planet. I always said that's the way I feel. This was one of the worst in terms of play and each individual country, with the exception of Brazil and Argentina, that really put it together at the very end. Ecuador obviously looking really good, but there were moments in time in these qualifiers where everybody was so up and down that Colombia had every chance to make it to this World Cup, because it wasn't the greatest qualifier that I've seen. So because of that, it's a huge disappointment that a guy like Luis Diaz, that's this new bright future star, will not be at the World Cup. And that's what the World Cup is about, having the brightest star shine in the biggest stage in the sport. And we are not going to have that. There's going to be it could have been James's last chance at a World Cup. It could have been Quinteros, Falcao, whoever it is that you wanted to put into that World Cup team would have been in obviously those guys that are already underway out, that you could have had them and you didn't. So that's where their huge disappointment. And Ecuador has to be the surprise. I mean, Ecuador, Brandon Alfaro, 8 days later, he's already winning. He's kind of putting it together as he goes along. Once again, calling the right players to do the job, and criticized by national media, criticized by fans, which was just able to put a team together, and look at where they are now. So, yeah, that's definitely my surprise and my disappointment from CONMEBOL.
Yeah, I was surprised Ecuador did as well with Alfaro as they did. I was skeptical based off what we saw at Boca, but Ecuador's been brilliant. I think they're a team you don't want out of pot 4 at all. Peru and Costa Rica, figuring it out and fixing it, because they were both in awful spots at pretty late stages of the qualification process, and both of them solved it and get into the repechaje. I agree with you about Colombia. I mean, just the amount of talent. Like, it's just, how do you have the bad run that you had? And honestly, I mean, you had bad runs to start, and then a bad run in the critical time too. It's just shocking. In CONCACAF, I don't think there's as many surprises from a negative sense. There was a lot of expectation of Jamaica, but very disorganized as they typically are. And you heard a lot of talk about guys coming in and playing these big games, and then you'd see a few for one window and you wouldn't see them come the next time. And it was just inconsistent rosters for them. Panama, kind of capitulating at the end after a great run, because I didn't expect that out of them. I thought they would struggle this time around, and then just losing it, kind of like Chile and CONMEBOL, where it looked like they were in a good spot and just you finished so badly. That's a little surprising. Brazil and Argentina and CONMEBOL, no surprises. Maybe a little bit of a surprise just at how wide of a margin it was for both of them. They feel they both really took a step further away from the rest of the group in South America.
Man, and that's Argentina's another example of bringing in a guy that's younger, different ideas.
Yeah.
Everybody hated him. They wanted him out, man. Boy, did they push. They pushed and they pushed, and they couldn't get that man out. And look at the benefit that has done for that federation to have a guy that was held on, that was able to make that process happen. And now he has a great squad.
It's funny. I remember, I think it was early on in the process, a game at Bolivia where he got a result, and it almost started as a joke in La Scaloneta and everybody getting excited. Like, we're following Scaloni now. He's the guy. And everybody's like, yeah, whatever. This is funny. Ha, ha, ha. And then he goes and wins Copa America. And the joke becomes reality then. Like, this is a rallying cry. And this is the guy to lead us. And now 31 unbeaten for them. They go in. I mean, when you can rally around the idea going to a World Cup of our legend finally got his trophy in Copa America, finally got that. But our legend, his last World Cup, he needs a World Cup. And we're all going to do everything for Messi to get that. That's powerful. That's powerful. They're going to be an interesting one. They just did a mock draw on TEC, and the U.S. ended up in Argentina's group, along with South Korea and the UEFA Pot 4 team. So either Scotland or Wales or Ukraine. We're going to be doing mock draws the rest of the next 24 hours until we know what the stupid thing's going to be. It'll get ridiculous. Let's get into MLS, because we're going to have a long run of MLS uninterrupted until June, where we are going to get some important qualifiers, the final ones, but also some important friendlies without having really a camp before the World Cup. June becomes critical for the U.S. It becomes critical for Mexico, for Canada. Big games are going to be had in June worldwide, and maybe some later on in the summer too. But between this weekend and the beginning of June, we got like 2 months of uninterrupted MLS, and we're going to get a sense of where everything is pretty quickly. Your team in Seattle this weekend, they go to Minnesota, a team that maybe has been a little bit better this year than we would have thought. How do you feel like the Sounders are coming back into this with some guys coming back from international duty? Nuhu gets to the World Cup with Cameroon. How do you feel about Seattle coming into this stretch right now?
I think that they are getting healthy, and that is the biggest thing. Without putting Yeimar Gomez-Andrade, that I believe will be out for at least another 3 weeks, because we have not seen him at all at the training field. And I think that puts him about 3 to maybe 4 weeks out. Maybe makes it to the final of CONCACAF Champions League if they make it that far past New York City FC. Everybody else is coming back. Raul Ruidiaz has looked fantastic this week. Nicolas Odero, oh man, he's fun to watch at training. A guy at his age with his injuries, he's the guy. He doesn't have to be making an extra run, sliding tackle on a loose ball that becomes a quick break for the other team. But we've seen him do it all week long, man. I mean, he's been putting his body on the line, going, shoulder to shoulder against these young guys. The Jordi DeLems that are just starting to get back into the squad. So love to see that. Albert Rusnak had a knock. He didn't go to international duty, but he has been in and out of full team training, not fully in training, but in some exercises, some scrimmages. And he has looked really good. You could tell that he's starting to really bond more and more with these guys. And a couple of times this week, we were able to see Nico, Albert, and Raul, in the exact same final third. And that's exciting. That's something that I think is going to do this team, a great favor. And having that eliteness of Raul Ruidiaz in the final third with the creative play of Nicolas Odero and Albert Rusnak, I think is going to be great. So, yeah, I think this team just getting healthy is good. I think they're going to be all available, not saying that they're all going to start, because they got to think of that New York City FC game, which obviously is a big deal. But, just they're coming in great shape. The morale has picked up. like you just said, everybody's happy for Nuhu get into the World Cup. I mean, there's just a different feel at the training center right now.
Sticking with Cascadia, let me go to the last game on the board for the weekend. Portland, after Van Rankin gets a second yellow, and Portland's down to Orlando City. Orlando City, traditionally one of the worst teams coming from the Eastern Conference to play in Western venues, ends up with a 1-1 draw by the end of it all. And now Portland has to regather themselves with the Galaxy coming to town. When you look at this one with Portland at home going against LAG, what do you think?
I think it's going to be a fun game. Portland has shown us that when it comes to this type of prime time games, as you would call it, they show up to play. And, they haven't always gotten the results, but they're always fun to watch. I think that they are still getting some players back, and it was nice to see Wilkinson get back in the mix for them. And honestly, with how Diego and Paredes have worked together, we'll see how that really works out. But the team, has a lot of potential, and they have looked good at times. They haven't looked so great at times. Defensively, still kind of their Achilles heel. Van Rankin is so up and down. Bravo sometimes has those lapses of mental inaccuracies where just things get off his game. They still haven't got back. They're center backs on set pieces. They can be vulnerable. But at the end of the day, I think it's going to be a good game. LA Galaxy, they have their own inconsistencies, but they kind of put it together in the final third as well. I think this is going to be a fun one. I think that, in Portland, though, I got to give it to the home team always, just because they kind of feed off that crowd. They know that stadium, and they just play well there. But both are work in progresses. I think that's the biggest thing. Both have interesting pieces. And Portland, although they have a lot of chemistry and, there's already a plan in place and everything, they're still trying to manage some pieces and how some of those guys coming back are going to work in, and how that's going to play out at the very end. But to work in progress, it'll be a fun one.
Let's go over to the East, and I think a really intriguing game in Chester, PA, as Philadelphia hosts Charlotte. Wouldn't have said that would be intriguing a few weeks ago, but Charlotte's got back-to-back wins. You can talk about the competition. You can talk about New England and the situation they were in when they came to Charlotte, but they got to go to Philadelphia, who's the best team in the Eastern Conference right now. And as we know about Philly, they are incredibly disruptive and difficult to deal with. And Miguel Angel Ramirez hasn't faced them yet. This is a big test for Charlotte, and it's a game that Philly should be looking at 3 points, right?
You think so, right? But it is a good, testing ground. It kind of sets the bar for this Charlotte team that, has always gave us something to praise them on, and now are getting some results. I think Sadecki has been fantastic, and he's leading the league in goals, and he gives them that punch that we were waiting for on this team, that was able to get the ball into dangerous positions, but they just couldn't finish. Now they have a guy that can make that happen. But not just that, but I think that he's got great field awareness, and even when it comes to this team playing in transition and he picks up a ball, he's always looking ahead. He's always looking at the next pass. And as long as those wingers and Franco and Bender, they can continue to play well and give this team some depth out wide, they could definitely be hard to play. Philadelphia's Philadelphia, though. They're not going to allow you to play your game. They're not going to let you hold the ball. They're going to disrupt. They're not going to let you connect with ease. So definitely a big test for Miguel Angel Ramirez. But I am excited about this Charlotte team that has really put it together. We were praising the goalkeeping. We're praising the confidence, the character, as well as the discipline. But now we're seeing a lot of good soccer. And it's not just about Sadecki, but just how they play off the ball and the way they fill spaces without it. And that's just good coaching in general. Mm-hmm. So I'm excited to see them play against Philadelphia and see where they really are at.
So then I'll give you dealer's choice here. You mentioned teams that you're excited to talk about we can talk about a team that I don't know, short of maybe one city that they're excited to talk about, an Inter Miami. Or we can talk about LAFC going from west to east and going into a challenging environment in Orlando. What direction do you want to go with the next one? You want to talk about Inter Miami and the Wooden Spoon, or you want to talk about LAFC having to go east?
I don't want to bore your audience with no Inter Miami talk. It's at this point is a mute point until they show something. So yeah, let's go to that big game. LAFC Orlando is a fun one, man. I mean, Orlando has exciting pieces as well. They still, I feel like, are lacking that power in the final third. And I think that there's a lot of good midfield play. There's a lot of generated soccer and creative play, but they still need to kind of show that they can be clinical in front of goal, and they haven't done that. And LAFC, with everything that comes with them, is what LAFC are we really going to get? They're getting results. They are playing well, but they are also very inconsistent. So I think I think looking at the schedule, I mean, I think between the Portland game and this one, I mean, those are the two best games or most interesting games for me. LAFC, I think that could be a contender, but I can't get it out because they just seem to be missing something, and I'm not quite sure what it is, but they need some eliteness, and maybe it's Vela and just having a lot of consistency there with him. But Chicho Arango has really, there's an injury, right? There's an injury. He's had some physical hindrance there, and that's why he hasn't come to play. And I think that's what it's missing, because Cristian Arango gives this team just a different look. Despite some of the issues defensively that they might have at times, but as long as you have those guys playing at their best, they're a hard team to deal with.
So Atlanta goes to DC, and DC is a team that I think Aaron Losada turned a lot of heads last year coming into the league first. It's kind of like, okay, wait a minute, who is he? What's his deal? What's he going to do? We heard about his training camp, guys losing a whole bunch of weight. He wants them to work hard. They had kind of a bad run early. They had a great run at one point. Then it fell apart again late. They don't make the playoffs. They're 2-2. They've been okay. I don't really know if we know who DC is under Aaron Losada yet. And this year, it feels like they haven't taken that step forward as of yet. If you're Atlanta United going into this, you think this is a game on the road that they can pick up 3 points?
Yes, I think it is. But I think there is some common ground here. I think that Atlanta is also having some issues at figuring out who they are and some of the pieces that are really going to work for them on the field. And
injuries have been a big part of that.
Injuries have been a big part of that. They've been showered and blessed with Almada's just fantastic play at times, but that still has to grow into a consistent and true product. I like what they do offensively, and I know that Gonzalo's not completely happy with where things are at, and he's got to be planning and moving things around. So I think there is a common ground between DC and Atlanta in that end, but just because of the quality, Atlanta has to get out here and really have they have to dictate the game. They have to dictate the pace of the game. They have to dictate possession. They have to be that team that just manages things from their end and doesn't allow DC to get in this one. DC is an athletic team. They're very hard to play. They get forward well. They got a lot of speed. So you're going to have to counter that. But I think with the possession of the ball, moving it around, switching the point of attack, they can really do damage on this DC United team. I thought against Montreal, I saw a lot of good things, right? Offensively. Particularly offensively, I thought that they looked good in many laps of the game. So I think with the break that we've had and knowing Gonzalo the way I have, you're going to see a much better defensive team, which is something that Atlanta needs at this time. I think you're going to see a more selective team when they attack, a lot more patient when they do so as well. So yeah, I think that this is a game that Atlanta could definitely win.
When you look at Gonzalo Pineda, and this is a strictly a Gonzalo Pineda question, from when he came into Atlanta last season through the end of last season, getting a full off season to get everything implemented the way that he wants, and early returns here this season in Major League Soccer, what's it been like for you and everyone there in the Pacific Northwest to see him finally get things the way that he wants with a full off season and integrating them? Yes, obviously we've been discussing injuries and such, but what's it been like for everyone to see this progression in Gonzalo Pineda as a coach when it comes to implementing a philosophy and putting it out there for Atlanta United?
Hey, look, I think everybody's happy. Gonzalo Pineda is one of those guys that just grew deep in the heart of the fan base, the players, the coaching staff. I mean, I can tell you that maybe 3 out of 5 times that I go to practice, I end up talking to someone about Gonzalo Pineda, how Atlanta did. Oh, he must have been feeling that draw, at the end, and all of those things, right? Wow, it's great that he's having a guy like Almada that he can really work with. Players themselves, they'll ask, oh, have you heard from him? Have you talked to him? How's he looking? Interviews. I mean, he really is someone that, as an organization and as a city, they're constantly looking at, and they all know that vision is not going to come into full reflection for a couple of years, because they know the way he likes to work. He's a perfectionist to the max, so they understand that right now he's having some issues, and he's very transparent about what's right and what's wrong. And definitely he's a guy that people talk quite often here at the training center. One thing that has been interesting is they do talk about how he's gaining some of those sounder traits in, getting guys that he knows and trusts, like Osvaldo Alonso. That was a big topic here, right? And there is a sense of some of those tendencies that perhaps he learned with this coaching staff, and now he's putting into productivity on his end. So that's definitely an interesting aspect of Gonzalo in the city.
Yeah, I think what I keep coming back to with this team right now is I like the identity that he has instituted with this group. I like what they want to be. I like what they try to be. This season, they haven't had their first choice team one day of training, period. Araujo is hurt now. The Almada came in when Araujo was hurt. You didn't have Moreno in preseason when you had Almada for a couple of days in Guadalajara. So you haven't had your main attacking group at all yet in a training session. Last year you came in and you had to get points. You had to find something that worked. He did. I really like what he's done. I like what he wants to do. I like where it's going. And I think we'll hopefully get here in this run, in these 2 months. I think by the end of it, we'll get a sense of what they can really be. Because I don't think anybody should have that answer right now. I mean, I think Gonzalo's been really clear in saying it, and maybe it's rankled some people. Like, yeah, I have to see where it all fits together right now. And that's real.
Yeah, no, Santiago Sosa is a guy that I want to see really get a position with this team. And he's somebody I was excited to see develop under Gonzalo Pineda. Of course, it's been the injuries as well on that end. But absolutely, I think that when he has all his pieces together, he knows who that 11 is and what they can provide. This is going to be a very dangerous team with Araujo. I'm a huge Moreno guy, and also Martinez going into it. Lennon does great stuff for the team as well. So in general, I think that this team has just a lot of potential to eventually be a top contender in this league.
Yeah, it's going to be a fun ride. And I think in these next 2 months before the June break, we're going to get a sense of maybe what the ceiling is for Atlanta United this year, because I don't think we really know yet. There's a lot of teams in that boat too, by the way. There's a bunch of teams there, and this is nothing new in MLS. I think it's the nature of the league where you are not expected to be your best day one. It's a playoff league. You got to be your best day 34. You got to be your best going into the postseason to win the thing. And we've seen that in Seattle over the years. We saw it in Houston back in the day under Dominic Kinnear. you got to continue to build and grow and be your best at the end. And whoever does that's going to be the one that wins MLS Cup.
Absolutely. And that's why it's interesting to see some of these teams like Chicago. I mean, that Chicago-Dallas is a game that I did put on my calendar that I do want to watch. You could tell in that Sporting Kansas City game that some of the things that Ezra has slowly put together are coming into fruition. Shaqiri looked a little bit better. Shabilko gets in the scoreboard. Can he do that continuously? They have a lot of young talent. Similar to Atlanta, I think that there are some players that you still haven't brought in that could eventually be a real difference maker for this team. So right now you're seeing the shell of it, a part of it. You see the concepts, you see the good soccer, you see the stars, but there's some young talent there that could really give this team an edge, and they could be a real problem in the East if they could put it together. And Dallas on their end, very similar. A lot of potential, a lot of raw talent. You got Ferreira, Ariola, you got Velasco. They look so good on the ball, but they're also very inconsistent at times. It's intermediate. You see flashes of it. You see great 30 minutes, and then you see an awful 15. And then it's just they got to put it together. But that game this weekend, I do want to see, note in hand and just figure out what they're providing and how they're growing as a team.
Yeah, this is a good weekend for the league coming back. New England hosting the Red Bulls. That's an intriguing matchup after how New England closed out the last group of games. Red Bulls, I thought, were very good up until their last game. I didn't think they played well against Columbus. Columbus was El Rayon potentially banged up, missing games, even though he's been the best player in the first month. Sporting Kansas City finally gets a result. Can they start to build on it? There's a lot of storylines around this league. It's just a blast to cover it.
Even Cincinnati has, picked it up after a couple of games. They still have limitations, but they're getting a little bit of confidence after playing some lesser teams. And, Lucho Acosta is such a creative player and such a dominant, midfielder that he just makes everybody look good. And Vasquez's story is just fantastic. He, quite honestly, statistically might be one of the best, at his position throughout the first weeks of MLS season. And he's just been so productive, so accurate on his movement, assisting, hold up play. I mean, he's really done it all. If you go back and look at what he's done individually for Cincinnati, oh boy, he's right there with Lucho Acosta as those difference makers.
Those two have built that relationship. It's so much of those relationships and that chemistry and the little societies on the field that are coming together. And I think the teams that have found that are the ones who are picking up points right now, and the teams that maybe haven't picked up as many points that we think will, they've got to build that. And it's just going to be one of the stories now with, instead of a month and then a break, you're going to get 2 months. So I think we're going to get to see teams grow a lot between now and June. I can't wait for it. Anything else on your mind, Niko?
No, guys, just thanks for having me. Definitely appreciate it. Allowing me to just vent a little bit this morning.
That was coming.
Always appreciate you guys' audience, your company. So excited for this weekend. We're gonna have a lot to talk about. We'll see how things play out, but I think we're gonna have some good storylines coming into this one.
Yeah, we'll have plenty to talk about next week. We will have a World Cup draw to talk about a little bit too. I hope that doesn't upset you since Colombia didn't make it. But
that is not in my calendar.
You're gonna skip the draw tomorrow. I don't blame you.
Wait, what?
I'll pick your brain as a neutral outsider to the tournament, looking at it.
Yeah, I've been rooting for the U.S., man. I'll get my U.S. Christian Roldan jersey.
There we go. There we go. Excellent. Niko, thanks, man. Have a good weekend. We'll talk to you next week.
Bye, guys. Thank you.
Be good.
Niko Moreno. Make sure you're following him, El Rolo NW, on the social medias. So last reminder, no live show in the morning on Friday. There will be a podcast posted on the SDH network around the time we would be normally going live. That'll give you an MLS preview for the weekend. You'll hear from Jackson Conway as the USL Championship Player of the Week. You will hear any other news of the day coming into the morning. That'll be early, and then after the draw, John will be helming a World Cup draw reaction show. That'll go up on the network in the afternoon whenever the draw is over. Who knows when that's going to happen.
9:30 in the evening.
That's all going on. And then Saturday on Bally Sports South, you can watch Mike Conti and Mo Edu and Jillian Sakovitz on 929 The Game and the Odyssey app. You can listen to myself doing play-by-play along with Jeff Lorenowitz on the call from Audi Field, Atlanta United, and DC. It'll be a very short full-time report because we're on the road and I got to catch a plane to get back home. So don't be on the lookout for a long full-time report. It'll be a short one. Get Jeff's thoughts before we get out of there. And then we'll be back to a normal schedule on Monday, catching up on everything with games worldwide picking back up, with games all over MLS, and Atlanta DC game to talk about. Tons of stuff. So no live show tomorrow, but content a couple different times during the day. So that'll do it. US is in. MLS is back. Very hectic time right now with a World Cup draw tomorrow and all the news that will result from all of the muckety-mucks in Qatar right now, and they're playing Legends games, and Pablo Zabaleta's lighting it up, and Bebeto's scoring goals, and Forlan's trying to earn himself a contract somewhere in the world. It's good times. Enjoy all of it. Enjoy the draw tomorrow. Hopefully it is a draw that you feel good about. I mean, I think they're all going to be roughly the same, to be honest. I don't think there's a dramatic difference in any which way. But hopefully it is a draw that you feel positive about and feel good about for your team. If it's the U.S., if it's somebody else, we'll talk about all of it as we go. Thanks for hanging out with us. Much plot, y'all.
Much plot, y'all.